Live. Let's put this at full screen. I'm gonna turn my camera on. Okay, you guys can see me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, no problem. All right, and yeah, so I'm guessing this is like Taxation is Theft, NAP, or ANCAP Arg Debate 2, Part 2.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
so basically the last time we mostly talked about taxes and then we got into ownership some. So we can retread or we can
Yeah, I have some.
homestead some new ground or
Yeah, I
what?
think we should retread first, and then, I have some questions for you, and if you have questions for me, maybe we can go back and forth. If that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you want to retread on?
As far as taxes, nothing. I always like talking about ownership, but
So what would you like to talk about first? You want to talk about taxes or ownership? I think maybe we should go over ownership first because I feel like then I could go into taxes.
Yeah, it's all derived from ownership anyway.
So maybe we can start at ownership and then taxes. Okay, cool with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you
So
want to start? Or?
yeah, I'll just start by just saying, that I kind of just define ownership as basically you have the exclusive right to something. If you are one individual owner of one individual item. And that basically means you're allowed to do pretty much whatever you want with that individual thing, so long as you're not violating the property right of another individual. But I'm not necessarily saying that you can't violate another person. Like, you could still take a knife and go violate another person's right. But when we say that you're not allowed to do that, is that so that person whom you're violating would be allowed to retaliate against you. So they would be allowed to stop you from harming them or doing something bad to them. So and how you come into ownership of something is through two ways. It is through voluntary exchange, or it has to be through mixing your labor with the land, and that's it.
Yeah, and I would just say that ownership is an entitlement to a thing. So that does not have to be exclusive. It's just some right you have to the thing. So if, say, one person is the owner, then of course they would be the only one with any entitlement to the thing. But if you had multiple owners, they would each have some entitlement to the thing, which would generally be regulated by law, whatever agreements the people have come to. In the case of it not being explicit law, it'd probably fall down to social norms, which would be arbitrated by a third party. And that's what I would consider ownership.
The thing is, that's why I mentioned earlier, like, if you own an individual item, you have the exclusive right to that item. But like, kind of like when we were talking about earlier, let's say like two people decided to split the bill on something. There's usually two libertarians. Like, I want to tread that ground. Is that cool with you? Okay, so there's basically two libertarian explanations, and I guess I guess I'm more convinced by one of the explanations versus the other. So there's like the title transfer theory, which is essentially that when you give something to another person, you can only transfer it from one person to another person, essentially. That's how, like, I guess that's when you were talking to the libertarian last night. I guess that's basically what he was trying to get to, which is essentially, and the reason why we believe that is because if you transfer it to multiple people, then we believe that that contract doesn't really hold much ground if there's a conflict between those two people. There's like nothing that really that contract would say. Now, my thing is, I would say that two people can split the bill on something and they would both own it. But then by doing, um, but why the reason why I disagree with it is because I feel like it's kind of like inefficient. Because if two people disagree over what they want to do, well, like I said earlier, two people can't do the same thing with the same item. It's impossible. There's like it's a conflict there. There's no real rightful winner within that conflict. If they don't agree, well, then they either have to, like, one of them has to back down, or they're basically stuck in that state forever, or they have to have somebody else to basically come in and make an arbitrary decision.
Yeah, and I would be fine with it ultimately coming down to an arbitrary decision in the case of, well, I wouldn't say it's an arbitrary decision. I'm okay with what you're calling an arbitrary decision. I wouldn't classify it that way, but yeah, I'm okay with it coming down to that in the case of there not being explicit agreement that determines the outcome. But you could really easily avoid a lot of it by just having a rule in place that maintains a status quo. And if someone is going to do anything that alters that status quo, then they need the consent of other parties that are owners, unless there is explicit agreement that overrides it.
Yeah, I would agree. The thing is, like, as if there's two people that are buying the same thing, they know they're buying the same thing, they have to kind of go into it with the understanding that they can't use it without the other person's consent. You know what I'm saying? And if they do, well, then they would be basically violating that other person's right. So, but the thing is, the reason why I find it to be inefficient is because it's just there's no, like I said, there's no clear winner within that conflict. Some third party would have to then make an arbitrary decision. You say it's not an arbitrary decision, but I would have to disagree with that, because in the end of the day, who should win, I guess, really comes down to the personal opinion of the person who's arbitrating over that decision, right?
Well, why do you say there would have to be an arbitrator?
Well, if you're saying that, well, then if there's no way that they can agree, well, then they're going to be stuck not being able to make the decision until infinity, basically, and then you're just kicking the can down the road. You're not solving the conflict.
No, the rule would be that if someone is altering the status quo, if they don't have consent, they can't perform the action. So there's a clear winner there. Anyone who wants to maintain the status quo can veto any changes. So there's no need to go to an arbitrator.
The issue with that is that what is to be considered to be the status quo? Also, the status quo can't always account for every situation. So, for instance, if you want to paint your house red or the other person wants to paint their house green, there's no real status quo you could really rely on to make that decision in that situation. It sort of has to be based on
not painting the house. You would not paint the house.
But then you haven't really solved the conflict, because one of them wants to paint the house and then the other person wants to paint the house. And if they both can't paint the house, then you haven't really solved the conflict. All you're doing is just being like, oh, well, you can't paint the house,
Well, there's no way to solve conflict. All you can do is avoid conflict escalating to violence.
Yeah, but that's no offense, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I feel like that's my issue with, like, that's why we believe it's inefficient. We think there should be a way to solve this conflict.
I'm saying this is the case in all systems, including yours.
Well, the thing is,
solve conflict.
Well, the thing is, us libertarians, we believe in individual property rights, and we feel like whenever there is a conflict between a person who owns something and somebody who doesn't own something, well, we have something in which we don't have a judge to be like arbitrarily be like, oh, well, that's that person's property, that's that person's property. It's based off of like a rule set, like a system. Whereas yours is like somebody has
in a circle now, though. I literally just addressed this by pointing out it wouldn't go to arbitration.
Yes, but then you're not really solving the issue. That's the issue.
Okay, but wait a minute. Wait. I pointed out that it wouldn't go to arbitration, and then you said, okay, but that doesn't solve the issue because now it's not a clear winner and it goes to arbitration. And so
no. I'm saying if you.
Wait, just real quick. Do you acknowledge that it wouldn't go to arbitration?
Oh, if you're giving a hypothetical where it wouldn't go to arbitration, then how would they solve the conflict?
Well, what did I tell you was the way they solved the conflict? Because I've already answered this.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you said that none of them could paint it.
Right. So it wouldn't need to go to arbitration, right?
Yeah. Right. After that.
Okay.
Right?
So there's no need for at any point later in the debate for you to say, oh, it goes to arbitration, right? Because there's rules in place that make arbitration unnecessary.
Yes, but
we
the
don't
decision
have to keep going back to that.
No, the issue that I'm saying is the decision that the arbitrator is going to make is going to be arbitrary.
No, there is no arbitrator. That's the point. There's
oh,
no
so
need
you're
for an
saying that
arbitrator.
if there's a conflict, you don't think they should go to an arbitrator? You're just saying they should just, like, what do you think should happen?
whichever one wants to maintain the status quo would be able to veto. And if they both want to change the status quo and they can't agree, then the status quo would just be maintained. So the status quo is always maintained unless there's agreement to change it. But there's no need to ever go to an arbitrator.
Yes, but if none of them can paint the house, then to me, you haven't really solved the conflict.
But do you agree there's never a situation where they go to an arbitrator, right? Like, we don't need to bring up arbitrators.
No, I haven't mentioned the arbitrator. I'm asking you.
I just need you to acknowledge.
No, yes. I'm agreeing with you. You don't have to go to an arbitrator. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that's why I haven't mentioned it after this. I'm saying is that to me, you haven't really solved the conflict. You've just sort of kicked the can down the road until one of them agrees.
Now we can address. Now we can address that part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you say solve the conflict here would be a desire for a different outcome than some other party. So nothing can solve for this. Like, even in your system, people are going to have desires that conflict with other people's desires. You can't solve for that.
Well, you could, because if you have individual property rights, you could be like, oh, well, the person who owns it is the one that gets to use it, and the person who doesn't own it doesn't get to use it. Whereas when you have two people, hold on, let me explain.
There's still conflict, though.
Yes, there's going to be conflict, but the issue that I have, right, isn't that there's a conflict. It's about how to solve the conflict and who would win in that conflict. Somebody has to win.
Doesn't solve the conflict any more than mine does.
Yes, it does, because there's individual private property owners.
Okay, but okay. So when you say solve the conflict, you don't mean eliminating a difference in desire, correct?
No, I mean, like, when there is a difference in desire, there would be some way to resolve that difference.
Okay, there is in my system. So I'm not sure why you're saying there isn't.
What I'm saying is that what you're doing is, if two people have conflicting opinions as to what to do with the same house, like one person wants to paint it green or the one person wants to paint it blue, and they can't agree, then none of them are able to paint the house. To me, you haven't really solved that conflict. All you've done is just kick the can down the road.
Okay, but solving the conflict, like you just said a moment ago, solving the conflict just means determining what the outcome is going to be, like a clear determination of the outcome.
Well, it's declaring who the winner in that conflict is. And there is no
clear winner, or declares whether one.
Yeah, but it would be. Our issue is that it would be done arbitrarily, whereas
no, it's not. It's not. Wait. You're going back to it being arbitrary, and it's not.
It is arbitrary.
Why is it arbitrary?
Well, because whoever gets to pick, whoever chooses which one is red or blue.
You're going back to there being an arbitrator. There's no arbitrator. Remember?
Okay, so then if nobody's able to paint the house, then you haven't solved the issue.
Okay, so let's address that now. Mm-hmm. I have solved the issue by there being a clear determination of whether person A or person B gets their way. And within my system,
but none of them gets their way if none of them
right.
is able to paint the house the color in which they want.
Right, neither of them get their way. That's solved.
So nobody's won. Nobody's won the conflict.
Right, no one needs to win the conflict.
Yeah, but the reason why.
Well, no, technically they've both won the conflict. Neither of them.
Well, they both lost technically because they both didn't get their way.
And they also
not necessarily.
Well, yeah, necessarily the person that wanted to do something that they didn't want done did not get their way. So that is, in a sense, winning as well.
I guess when you put it that way, you're not wrong. But the issue is that we want there to be one winner. Like, there has to be like at least one of them to be the winner. You know, not both of them or both. Like, I don't want there to be both winning and losing. Like, I want there to be a definitive way so we can be like, well, if this person aggresses on this person's private property, oh, well, he's the loser and he's the winner. As opposed to them being like,
has that.
No, it doesn't, because if they, like I said, if they both want to do the same thing with the same thing, and they can't do it, well, then you're not really addressing the conflict.
Well, no, you said there's no clear way of determining a winner whenever somebody aggresses. If somebody aggresses and changes the status quo without the consent of the other, they are the loser. They are the one who violated. They are the
in that situation. But if you're talking about a situation where two people, hold on, no, allow me to explain.
No.
If there's two people,
because guy, you have to stop doing this. Where you make a point, I show why it's wrong, and then
you're not allowing me to explain.
Wait, because you're moving away. I just pointed out to you, I need you to acknowledge, I just pointed out to you that the aggressor would be wrong, and it's very clear in my system.
I'm
So
agreeing. I was gonna
okay,
say, yeah, I was gonna
so at
say.
no point, well, just real quick, at no point now in the future of this debate should you say again that there's no clear way to determine who the aggressor is, right? Because there is.
There's
So you're
no
not going
clear
to say it
winner.
again, right?
There's a person in in an individual private property situation. If somebody takes something from another person who owns something, they are the aggressor. But in this situation, there is no aggressor because they both
Yes,
own.
there is.
Who's the
No, there's
aggressor if
still
they
an
both?
aggressor.
Who's the aggressor?
The one who altered the status quo.
Well, if they both don't alter the status quo and they have a disagreement over it, there's not going to be a winner over that conflict.
Disagreement without aggression is fine. It's fine for there to be disagreement as long as there's no aggression.
I understand that, but there should be a way to resolve that conflict as opposed to just being like, no, you
There
can't
is. The
do it.
resolution is to maintain the status quo. That is the resolution.
All right, I mean, if that's what you believe, man. You want to move on?
That's what I believe. Yeah, we can move on.
Mm-hmm. So why do you not believe that taxation is theft?
Because the state is just tax.
Okay, so what makes you believe that the state is justified?
Let's start with whether or not the state can be legitimate. Do you believe the state can be legitimate?
No.
Okay, why do you not believe the state can be legitimate?
Well, actually, define what you mean by that.
My idea of legitimacy would essentially be that they are acting in conformity with the people they're governing. That's how I would derive legitimacy.
Oh, then
So
absolutely not.
conflict.
Absolutely not.
No, one, it doesn't have to be universal. So there would be degrees of legitimacy. So one person out of 300 million disagreeing wouldn't make it a illegitimate state. It just wouldn't be a perfectly legitimate
Well,
state.
to me, if I could, whether or not so there's I guess how libertarians and anarcho-capitalists look at it is that there's a difference between a state, a company, and a government, where it's essentially a company and a state can both do the job of a government, right? And what differentiates a company from a state is whether or not there is a consensual transaction being going on. With a company, they have no choice but to offer you a service, and then you either buy it or you don't buy it. Whereas a state, they force upon you a service and you have no choice but to pay for it. And that's we consider that to be a violation of individual property rights.
When you say you have no choice, you just mean that you can't stay here and take advantage of the services provided by the state without contributing? Is that what you mean by being forced?
Well, the thing is, we don't consider the land in which the state owns to be a legitimate ownership of the land. So I don't believe that the government has a right to kick me out.
Well, I'm not saying that they would kick you out necessarily. They're just going to make you pay if you stay because you're taking advantage of.
Yeah,
the
I don't think a government
provided.
has a right to force me to pay if it doesn't own the land in which I'm staying on, especially if I bought my own land from another willing participant.
Well, they're compensating you for, even if we did consider it a rights violation, they're compensating you for that rights violation. So
compensating me how? I'm the one paying them.
Yeah, but they're providing a service, so they're compensating in kind for the violation of your right. So it's fine.
Yeah, but to me that's not right, because I don't think we should live in a world where it's essentially, your example of a government is no different than a mafia or a cartel. They come up to you, they'd be like, hey, knock knock, we're gonna basically protect you, but you have to pay into our services. It's just like, wait, I never asked for your service to begin with, so why should I have to pay?
Okay, but you agree with the concept of if a rights violation occurs, then you should be compensated in kind, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm proposing to you, that the state is compensating for the rights violation in kind. That's in conformity with your position.
I'm the one paying them.
Right, but they're providing a service, which is compensation in kind.
Well, the thing is, I didn't ask for the service.
Doesn't matter. They owe it to you because they're violating your rights. So they're giving you the service in exchange for violating your rights.
Yeah, but if somebody violates my rights, how does that entail me paying them?
No, them making you pay them. I don't actually consider it a rights violation, but if we say it is a rights violation, so they force you to pay, so now they owe you compensation for that rights violation of making you pay, and the compensation they give you is the services provided by the government. So they've compensated
I
you.
think you
So
kind of have it a
therefore,
little bit backwards. I'm not gonna lie, because you know the service is forced upon me, right? And I have to pay for that service. They're not compensating me for paying them. They're forcing the service upon me first.
I mean, it doesn't really matter which order you put it in. I don't
Well,
think.
it matters to me because let's say you have a dirty car and I decide, Lego, your car is disgusting. And without your consent, I decide to take your car and take it to a car wash. Then I return to your house and I say, hey, I've washed your car for you. You now owe me $15. Would I be right in forcing you to give me $15?
No, you wouldn't be.
Well, I look at it that the same way as the government. You may be, you may be providing me a service, but I didn't ask for that service. So why should I have to pay for you for something that I didn't ask for?
In this case, again, I don't agree it's a rights violation. But if we do say that they are violating your rights, you would agree that they owe you compensation in kind, correct?
Well, yes, but the thing is, that would be through like money. Like they would have to pay me. Like not, I'm not. If I don't want their police services or the services in which they provide, to me that wouldn't be a just compensation.
I don't think you get to arbitrarily decide what is just compensation. Obviously, there's a conflict of interest there.
Well, we have to come to some sort of agreement. If not, then the person who is forcing upon me their ideology is a tyrant. They would be violating the non-aggression principle.
As a society, we have come to an arrangement.
Well, I haven't come to that arrangement. The thing is,
Yeah,
like I said earlier, there's a service that is being forced upon me, and you also agreed that if I took your car and forced upon you a service that you didn't agree with, that I wouldn't be right in taking that money from you. And it's the same thing with the government. And if I did that to you, if I violated your rights by taking your car and you wanted some sort of compensation for me, and I'd be like, well, the compensation is me washing your car. Well, it's just like, wait a minute. I didn't ask you for you to wash my car. I don't want you to wash my car. I wanted it to be unwashed.
Again, I would just go back to I don't consider it a rights violation to begin with. But if you want to say it is one, all they owe you is compensation in kind according to your system.
Yeah, but the thing is, if I don't want the services in which they're trying to compensate me with, then to me, you're not really compensating me. You're just forcing me into a service.
Okay, but the person being compensated doesn't get to decide the compensation. That would be a conflict of interest.
So you're meaning to say if somebody violates your property rights, you don't have a say as to what the retribution?
You don't get a final say. No, you don't get to
Well, I think you should.
decide that unilaterally.
I think you should. I think
Well, no,
if
that
somebody
would make
violates
sense.
your property
But-
rights, I think you should have a say as to what happens to that person.
Okay, so if you step on my property, I should get to unilaterally decide what the punishment is. So if I decide to kill you, that's fine because I get to decide it.
Well, not necessarily. We believe in the gentleness principle.
Not necessarily.
The thing is, us libertarians, we believe in the gentleness principle. So if a person walks onto your private property, they haven't necessarily violated your property rights, because in order to violate your property rights, you would have to ask them to leave. And then if they refuse, that's when they violate your property rights. So if somebody steps on your property unknowingly, that's not the same as trespassing.
Okay,
Would
so,
you
I mean,
agree?
we can say that they broke a window then. So,
If they broke a window, if they're knowingly violating a person's property right, well then, you have the right to do what you can, because that would be aggressing upon your private property.
Okay, yeah. So you could like do anything you want to this person at that point, right?
Well, not necessarily. If there's a way in which, see, we also believe in the gentleness principle. So if there is a way that you could deal with that conflict without necessarily committing violence against that person, we would choose that route as opposed to the violent route. Us libertarians, we want to choose.
You might would, but someone else doesn't have to choose that, right? Like,
no,
you're
not
saying
necessarily.
The person that is violated gets to unilaterally decide what the punishment is.
Yes, but that I believe that's a good way to deter people from throwing rocks at people's windows. If people are, if you take a violate another person's right, though that person has the right to retaliate against you.
Okay, so but we agree that it doesn't make sense to just let the person who has violated unilaterally decide what the compensation is, right?
Um, it would depend on where the thing is in an ANCAP society. It would depend on the where you live and the rules in which state. I mean, not state, but place that you live in. I don't have a concrete answer for that.
Well, I would say we can get to the same state and system we have now through ANCAP principles. Like ANCAP principles don't give you a different system than what we have now.
Well,
It
the
could
issue
give you a
is
much worse one, but it could also give you the same one.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the things that the government provide can't be done voluntarily. I'm just saying right now it isn't, and I want to strive for a system in which we could. So, and to us, when the government starts to provide its services voluntarily, then to us it's no longer like a state. To us, it's just like it's a company at that point.
Okay, so what if we just said the state is a company, and let's just say the company bought up a bunch of land, and then now you're living on that land, and they're charging you rent instead of taxes to be.
Well, that's
And
not
let's just say
taxes
everything.
because that's rent. That's like a little different because
That's what I said.
yeah.
That's what I said. They're charging.
Oh yeah,
you
that's
rent
fine
instead of
because
taxes.
as long as
Okay.
they the prerequisite would have to be that they of course they had to buy the land from a willing participant. But the issue is the government, they didn't really do that. You know what I mean?
Well, what do you mean? No, tell me what you.
Well, depending, I don't know the history of every single government, but generally governments don't come upon their land through purchasing it from another willing participant. They simply just declare a plot of land to be their own, and then be like, hey, you have to abide by the rules here. And we, us libertarians, we don't really consider that to be a just form of land appropriation.
I feel like you're just assuming that a company couldn't buy up a bunch of land. There's no reason they couldn't.
No, I'm
And
not
then
saying
form
they
a
couldn't.
state.
I'm not saying they couldn't. I'm not saying they couldn't.
Okay.
I'm just saying
Okay,
that
so
there's a. I'm
let's
just
assume
saying
they did.
Yeah, if they did, yes, if they did, then to us that would be no problem because they would no longer be a state. That would be basically like a company, and companies do this
Okay,
all the
but
time. Like for instance, Disney World.
So we could have the exact same thing we have now. You would call it a company instead of a state, but I don't really care what we call it. But we could just end up with the exact same thing we have now, right?
Well, the thing is, there would be no aggression that started the creation of that company state.
Well, I'm not talking about how it started. I'm saying that ultimately you could end up in the same exact place we're in now, right?
Well, the thing is, we don't consider somebody charging you to stay on their private property to be the same thing as taxes because you're not being forced to pay that. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't care what you call, but I don't care what you call the things. I'm talking about in practice. Everything could be the exact same as it is now.
Well, it'd be similar, but the thing is, the difference, it would be voluntary. That's the difference. That's the difference that we care about. We want a system that would be voluntary. And, if you don't...
So why would that be more voluntary than what it is now? What would make that voluntary and what we have now is not voluntary?
Well, because the land, if you're talking about a company city that bought it from another willing participant, well, then you're talking about a situation where a person owns the land, and if you want to stay there, well, then they have the right to charge you to stay there. But the difference is the government... They didn't buy their land from a willing participant. They simply declared land to be their own.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, let's ignore how we got to this point. Like, let's just assume that the situation we're in right now, we could, if you want to argue about how we got to here, we can. But you've already said you're not familiar with the history of it, so I don't know.
I mean, are you?
Would really be. I'm pretty familiar with it. Yeah. Do you want to go into it?
I mean, we don't have. Do we have to?
That's what I'm saying. We don't have to, but if you want to, we can.
No. We don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just assume then that the situation we're in now, we could nitpick on whether certain land was stolen and whatnot, and then we could nitpick on the land that was stolen. Was it stolen from someone else? So therefore it's fine. And, we can go round and round about that. But let's just assume the situation we're in now, we were justified in getting to this point. So assuming that, what would be your gripe with the current system as it is now, assuming we got here without any violation?
As long as there's there wouldn't be any issue. The issue is that you got there through violating people's property rights. You know what I'm saying? That would be sort of the issue. You know, if you
Okay,
if you bought your like, let's say if you had a group of investors and you say, hey, I want to start my own, basically my own city, and you guys bought the land from another willing participant, or and you guys did it willingly, and all the people who are there have a way to sort of leave if they don't like the situation, like they have a way to opt out. um
well, how are you being violated right now? Is
well, the
kind of what
issue
I want.
is the government doesn't really own the land in which it
No.
claimed.
Let's just assume they do. How are you being violated if we assume they do own the land?
Oh, then you wouldn't be.
Okay, so your only gripe then is that you don't think the government justly owns the land.
Yeah, that's the issue, because
So
if
if
you
I can
don't,
show they do justly own it, then you're perfectly fine with our current.
I mean, I mean, the whole United States.
Yeah, I'm asking if you have any gripes about the current system if we ignore how we got to this point.
It would
And
depend
you're
on,
saying no,
yeah,
your
yeah. I
only
mean, if
gripe
you
is
could show to me
how we
that,
got
yeah,
here.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, you have said before that you're okay with the idea. You don't prefer it, but it's not a logical contradiction or anything for there to be co-ownership, and it's not a violation.
Of the
It doesn't
NAP.
make own. Yeah, it's not a violation of the NAP to have co-ownership, right?
Hmm.
Assuming everyone consented to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could theoretically have a group of people that start an organization uh, that starts to control land. We'll say, right? And
Hmm.
we could just call it a government. We'll just call it a government just so for ease of use of language. But right, like a government could start legitimately controlling land.
You would have to um sort of do something with that land. Like, you can't just be like, I claim this land. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would have to do something with it. So, for instance, like if you want to buy land that isn't, or not buy land, but if there's land that isn't been appropriated yet, you would need to do something with it. So, like, if you be like, hey, this is our land, well, you have to do something with it, like build a city, build a house, or like you would have to create a way to exclude people from it so that people know when they come there that it is your land.
Well, people know when. I mean, we have borders and stuff. It's pretty
Yeah, 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 yeah.
obvious when
But
you're
yeah,
in the
yes,
state. And I
it would
mean,
have
like
to be
we.
like a way for people to know that it is your land. Like, you can't just like say this is my land and then claim anything. Do you know what I mean?
Well, sure. Why not? Why can't you?
Well, because then there would, the thing is, we don't really feel like that's a just way of like claiming land, because like anyone could just claim any land as their own without even
Yeah,
using it.
yeah. Well, I mean, they would have intent for the land. They wouldn't be using it at the moment.
Yeah, but you need to, like, to us, you need to like do something with the land. Like, you can't just like leave it. Like, or you have to buy it from another willing participant. Because if not, if you decide to make like claim a land and then you decide to leave it and somebody else comes up and inhabits it, they would consider that to be abandoned land. There would be no way for them to know that that's your land, you know?
So in the U.S., we fought a revolutionary war against what you would say are illegitimate owners, or authoritarians to get our freedom.
Hmm.
So it's fair for us to say, okay, well now we own this land. Like we fought our revolutionary war for it, right?
I don't know that the history too much. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, we
And
fought a
well,
revolutionary
the
war.
thing
I'm sure
was,
you
there
know
was like,
that,
I'm pretty sure there was Indians here before that,
right? But we didn't. We
that we
didn't
kind of
fight
took their
them.
lands.
No, no, no. The people we fought our revolutionary war against, they did that. We fought a revolution against.
So did the Indians join in and help us?
Actually, yes, Indians did help us. Actually, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I can't really say you're right or wrong because I don't really know the particulars of that historical
I
event.
mean,
The thing is,
though that you do know that we had a revolutionary war,
yeah, I know
right?
that, but I don't know all the particulars. I can't really like.
Well, you don't have to. They're
Well,
not
yeah, I
relevant, are
mean,
they?
the thing is, how do I know that what you're saying to me is true? I don't know all the particulars.
All I've said is that we fought a revolutionary war, and you agree with that. What do you mean?
Oh well, yeah, then yes. But I don't know. I'm not
Okay,
sure where you're going with this. That's all I'm saying.
where I'm going with it is that you would. Where I was going with it is that the people we fought the war against, you would say that they are illegitimate owners. So
Hmm.
is someone fighting a revolutionary war against a legitimate owner and winning? do they then get ownership over that which they fought the war for? That land that they've been living on and using.
Are you talking about a hypothetical situation, or are you talking about this specific historical situation? Because I don't really
it happened
know.
in this one, but I mean, we fought. You do know that we fought a revolutionary war against.
Yeah,
what
but
you
like I
consider
said, I don't know the whole.
owners.
I don't know the particulars of it. I don't understand.
What particular do you think would be relevant that you don't? I don't. I'm not sure
it would
what...
be relevant whether or not the people whom they're fighting against got their land justly, and like it's complicated, man. It's not that simple.
Well, yeah, we can say that the people they fought the war against, England, will say, we can say they got the land illegitimately, but we didn't.
Yeah, but I don't know that
take
for
the
certain,
land.
so I can't give my opinion on this historical situation if I don't know for certain. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Wait, so you're saying that
if you want to give me listen, if you want to give me a hypothetical situation, you know what I'm saying, and then I could give you my opinion based on that hypothetical situation.
Sure,
but historical situation's a little bit dicey because I don't really know if you're saying is true. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what have I said that you think might not be true?
I don't know. That's my issue. So
is there anything I've said that you're like, that might not be true?
I don't know. That's my issue.
You don't know if there's anything I've said that you've thought, oh, that might not be true?
I'm saying if you did say something that wasn't true, because I don't know the historical particulars, I wouldn't know if what you're saying is true or not.
Okay, so here's the things I've said: that we fought a revolutionary war, which obviously we did. That we fought it against England in this case, who was a foreign power. Who I assume you don't consider England a legitimate state, right?
Yeah.
Or do you?
Well, I don't know. I can't really speak on that.
What?
I can't really speak on that because I don't know the history of England. I don't know the history of England.
Wait, then you've conceded the whole debate.
I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying I don't know because I don't know the history of England. If you want to give me a hypothetical situation, I could give you what I think and based on that hypothetical situation. But you're giving me real world situations in which I don't know the history of, and you're trying to trip me up. So I'm not going to play this game with you. If you want to give me a hypothetical, listen to me. If you want to give me a hypothetical situation, and I could give you my opinion on it, but historical situations, I can't really give you good comment on because I don't understand the historical events. So I want to move on from the historical stuff. And if you have a hypothetical in which you want to test my brain on, I can answer your question.
Okay, I won't quiz you on historical events, but I will point out that you're acknowledging that we may have a lot of we might, not that we do, but that we might have a lot of legitimate states at the moment, and that we did possibly have a lot of legitimate states 200
Maybe,
years
but
ago.
the thing is, I don't know. That's my issue.
Okay, so then you don't know if the U.S. right now is a legitimate state, right?
Well, for the most part, it isn't.
Well, how do you know that one, but you don't know if...
Well, because most of the money in which it's used to buy the land in which it owns, it got through taxation.
Okay.
So to us, that would be an unconsensual transaction, and that wouldn't be a valid transaction.
No, taxes are fine as long as
it's fine for you.
Done. Well, no, it's fine for you too, as long as the state legitimately owns the land.
But I don't consider the state to legitimately own the land.
Well, you said you don't know. You don't know if they legitimately own the land.
Yeah, because it's historical. You have to give me a hypothetical situation as opposed to a historical situation. That's all I'm saying.
I don't
know about in that. Okay, I'm not gonna do this with you. Listen to me. If you want to give me a hypothetical situation, I could give you my opinion on it. Okay, well then let's move on.
No,
I'm not conceding nothing. I said I don't know because I don't know the historical situation.
Right, you don't know if the U.S. is a legitimate state, so therefore it may be.
It depends on this. It depends on how it got its money. It got its land. That's my thing.
I agree. Okay,
yeah. It depends on how it got its land, and I don't know the historical, like how every particular state got its land. So therefore, I can't give you a solid answer as to what state or what place owns their thing legitimate or illegitimate because I don't know the particulars of every historical situation. And you're trying to trip me up, trying to do some debate or something. I'm not trying to play this game. I'm not going to play this game with you. I'm not. So let's move on. Let's move on.
I'm not moving on.
What's your problem with the NAP?
I'm not moving on from this. Your position is that the U.S. government may be legitimate.
I'm moving on. I've given you my answer. I've given you my answer already.
I feel like the debate's kind of settled. I don't know.
Well, I have another question for you, unless you want to run away from it.
No, I won't. You can
Okay.
ask it.
So what's your issue with an NAP?
I don't have an issue with the NAP theoretic. My issue with the application of the NAP by ANCAPs is their concept of ownership, which is where they derive their idea of who the aggressor is. So since ANCAPs are wrong about ownership, they're also wrong about who the aggressor would be.
So if you mix your land, so you disagree that if you mix your land with the labor and then somebody steals that from you, that wouldn't be theft?
Well, if they steal it from you, it's necessarily theft. That like definitionally.
Okay, so where do you disagree?
That's what it means.
Do you disagree with the mixing of the land and labor thing?
Well, for one, I disagree with the mutual or not mutual, the exclusive ownership, the mutually exclusive ownership, I guess you could say. So I disagree with the idea of there just being one owner and that there can only be one owner.
Well, if you have one owner of a single item, don't you have the exclusive right to use that thing?
Yeah, but you can also have multiple owners.
I'm talking about like an individual item.
Right. Well, even with an individual item, you could have multiple owners. It doesn't have.
I
to
know,
just
but
be
I'm
one.
talking about one owner, one item. Don't you have the exclusive right to do what you want with that thing?
Yeah, my disagreement is not with whether or not you can have one owner. My disagreement is with the idea that there must only be one owner.
I never said there was only one owner.
Well, I know you asked what my problem is with the NAP, and most people who posit the NAP posit that
Well, you're
there can
talking
only
to
be
me,
one
and
owner.
I'm asking you, what's your problem with what I said the NAP is? Let me explain what the NAP is.
Yeah, you didn't say.
Yeah. Sorry. The non-aggression principle to me would be, well, that you don't have the right to aggress upon another person without any prior aggression. Obviously, there's a longer definition for that, but that's the more simplified version.
I said I don't have a problem with that, and my only problem with it is whenever someone posits the typical ANCAP conception of ownership, which I get you may not hold to, and in that case, we may not have any disagreement on the.
But so if you would agree with me that if you mix your labor with the land, you're the owner.
Well, that's not the NAP.
Well, that's how you become the owner of something. That's right. I know it's not the NAP, but it's like how you. I don't think you don't disagree with that, right?
I do, yeah. Well, I think that's one way you could become an owner. I don't think that necessarily makes you the owner.
Well, you're right. I do. It does. It's not the only way, but it is a way in which you can become an owner of something. Like, would you disagree with that? Like, don't you think like if you mix, like say you take a stick off a tree and you turn it into a spear, doesn't that thing, like, don't you own that thing, right? Wouldn't it be wrong for someone to take it without your consent?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, so when would it be okay for someone to take your stick without your consent?
Like, let's say if you came onto my property right now and you cut a limb off my tree and you turned it into a spear. Well, guess what? That's my spear. That's not your spear.
The issue with that is, okay, well then I'll.
Right. So yours.
So my bad. What I meant, mixing your land with labor, it must be with an unowned item. It can't be someone else's owned item. So yeah, you are correct. You can't do it in that situation. But I mean, let's say, let me change it and say, let's say it's an unowned item and you mix your land with labor, which is what I agree with. Like if you're an unowned item, and you're in an island, nobody owns it, and you mix a land and labor by cutting down a stick and turning it into a spear, like, wouldn't it be immoral for someone to steal that from you without your consent?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so give me an example where it would be okay for someone to take that from you without your consent or without you aggressing upon them.
So, like, if we had a situation, well, and maybe did you stipulate that you own this property that you cut the branch off of?
Well, the thing is, if it's unowned, yeah, I stipulated that it's unowned.
Well, the property though, that I know the branch is unowned, but
if it's unowned, then it isn't owned by anybody. Like it doesn't belong to anyone.
Well, I'm asking though, is the land the branch came off?
Oh, yeah, the land is unowned. Like it's like you're on an island, like an unknown island.
Okay. If you just go to a random, no, even in that case, I would say it's not necessarily yours because let's say and obviously you assume there is scarcity. That's what.
So what would give somebody the right to take your stick?
If say there's 10 other people and they really need that stick for something, I don't think that just because you went and you turned a spear turned it into a spear, that would necessarily make it yours. I don't think just labor alone is. I think that is an important thing to consider.
Don't you think that makes things a little dicey, though? Let's say, why would other people have the right to take that from me simply because they want it? You could make that argument for about pretty much anything, right?
Well, I don't think you have a right to the stick.
Well, why not?
Because mixing your labor with the stick is not sufficient to guarantee you ownership. I don't accept that.
Well, why not? Why? No, I mean, I guess morally, why shouldn't it be that way? Like, what is wrong with, if I work to create something, what is wrong with me claiming that to be mine? Like, who am I harming by doing that?
It's not necessarily wrong either. I'm just saying there's not enough context here to say, like, if we just say, oh, I mixed my labor with something, should that be mine?
Well, what context do you need? Yeah.
Well, like in the context of, if let's say you're on an island and there's one coconut tree,
Mhm.
and you say, this is my coconut tree, and everyone else is going to starve because you've claimed this coconut tree. Well, then I think it's perfectly fine for people to go, you know what? I don't give a shit if you mix your labor with that tree somehow or put a barrier up around it.
Well, I don't disagree that some people may take it from you. People do aggress upon other people.
I won't necessarily say they're right, but I would say they're not wrong to do it. To take that.
Well, they're right or they're wrong, right? Or are you just neutral? Like, you don't feel like there's anything?
Well, I would say it's permissible or at least justified for them to do it. Like, I wouldn't hold them accountable for it.
But the thing is, that's pretty dicey, man, because then
I don't think so.
Yeah, because
I think it's dicey.
Well, the thing is, then anytime. So, for instance, let's say I really wanted to have sex with a girl, and that was on the island, and she has property rights within her body, and we voted, and I said, hey guys, I really want to have sex with this girl, but she doesn't want me to, and hey, you should have sex with her. Let's all vote, and they all say yes. Like, would that make it okay?
No.
No, okay, exactly.
I don't know how you got to that.
Well,
what do you mean exactly?
Well, because that's your property, right? But why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong to rape somebody?
No, why would it be wrong for somebody to make that decision on another person's behalf?
To rape them?
Yes.
Well, the severe harm, typically, I mean, even if it's not physical harm, the extreme emotional and
but they voted for it.
Emotional and mental harm.
But the person wanted it really bad.
I don't care.
Well, I don't care neither when it comes to private property rights. Exactly.
Okay, but
wait. So, do you think you have a private property right in yourself?
I don't believe I own.
Well, let me ask you this: do you have a right to use your body?
Do I have a right to use my body? Like, I have a right to act, to do actions. Yeah.
So you have a right to use your body. Yeah. Like, you have a right to act. Yeah, use your body.
I mean, I am my body. I don't know what you mean by use my body. I am my body.
Well, you are using your body. Your consciousness is like your brain uses your body, right? And your consciousness is in your brain.
I don't conceive of it as me using my body. I am my body.
Well, the thing is, to me, your body and your consciousness.
I don't look at my hands and go.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think your body and your consciousness are the same thing? No, I mean, do you think your body and your consciousness are the same thing?
To a degree, but I would actually, if anything, I would say my mind and my consciousness is a result of my body. Like, my body is producing my mind.
So your body is in control of you?
No, I am my body.
But are you in control of your body?
In control in the sense that I'm moving myself around. I'm moving.
Yeah, like
myself
there's.
around.
I don't know any other sense. I don't know any other way to put it. You're in control of your body.
I am my body. Yes, and I can move the parts of my body.
I don't understand why you're trying to get away from the question. You are in control of your body. It's pretty obvious, right? Yes or no?
I'm controlling my body. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, do other people have a right to use your body without your consent and without a prior aggression?
It's not even possible for them to use my body in the sense that you were just
Does another
using
another
body.
person can't hit you? It's impossible.
Okay, that's not how you were just now use your body.
Okay,
and then
so
you tried to
wait, so then real quick. What way do you want me to use it?
Real quick. You were jumping on me for nitpicking on the word usage here, but you were using just a moment ago. Use just meant my mind moving my limbs around. No one else has that capability. But then you immediately switch to use being someone punching me. That's
Okay,
very different.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant, do other people have a right to touch your body, do things with your body without your consent?
No.
Okay.
Well, they could. I mean, that generally no.
Do they have
But
a
if I'm
right
doing,
to? Do they have a right? Would it be
that
moral?
depends on what I'm doing. That depends on the actions.
Okay, so then let me stipulate. You haven't aggressed on another individual. Does another person have a right to use your body, touch your body, put their hands on your body without your consent?
I would say in that case, probably not.
Probably not.
Well, I can't think of any case where they could, but
So,
there
so
may
in
be
a
an
roundabout
example
way,
that
to
I'm not
me,
thinking of.
you believe that you own your body because you have the
No,
exclusive right to
I
your
don't
body.
own my body. I am my body. I don't believe I own
To
it.
me, that's a roundabout way of saying that you own your body. You know, you're allowed to use your body. You control your body. You have the exclusive right to it, and nobody else is allowed to use it without your consent. It's pretty much the same thing as a piece of private property.
But I don't even consider ownership to be exclusive right. So maybe under your conception
So
of
if you
ownership
own a
and
single
your
item,
conception of
if
mine,
you just agreed with me that if you own a single item, one person, one item, you're one person, one body, you own that single item, right? Do you not have exclusive right to that item?
no, I don't agree that having exclusive control over something makes me the owner.
I'm not saying that having exclusive right control makes you the owner.
That was your argument for me owning my body. I have
No,
exclusive
what I'm
control
saying
over it,
is
therefore I'm the owner.
no, what I'm saying it's a number of things, right? You control your body is one of them, but also the fact that you're also not other people aren't allowed to use your body without consent as long as you're not aggressing upon another individual. Those two things are the prerequisites to owning something, to me at least.
Hey, by the way,
I mean,
King, I believe your conception of aggression is insufficient. Maybe we should have a conversation later.
Yeah, no
It's
problem.
not
We
quite
could talk
there.
about it. We could talk about it. Let's schedule it a debate sometime if you want,
I don't think it'll be a debate.
or discussion, whatever you like.
Yeah.
A friendly debate, friendly discussion. But anyways, back to what I was saying is that to me that fits.
this out.
To me, that just seems like a roundabout way of saying you own yourself.
I mean, not in my mind, but if that's how you
Well, yeah, to
want to
me,
cash
yeah,
it out,
because
I guess.
if it meets all the prerequisites.
Your prerequisites, mine,
But don't you agree that if you own a single item, that other people aren't allowed to use that thing without your consent, and it's yours exclusively?
I don't believe you just included if you own a thing. I don't believe I own my body. I am my body.
Okay.
It just
no.
is
Listen
me.
to me. I'm not talking about your body. Let's say you have a Beanie Baby, and you bought that from another willing participant, or you created it, the ways that I say that are just ways in order to get private property. Do you have the right to exclude other people from that thing?
Using your concept of ownership or mine?
Well, I'm asking you like your personal opinion.
Assuming, I mean, dude, we're skipping a lot of ground here.
Well, if you want to add something, you can. I feel like it's pretty clear.
Well, okay, if we're just talking about a Beanie Baby, the thing is, as soon as I agree to a Beanie Baby is a lot different because a Beanie Baby serves to fulfill no necessities really. Like I guess maybe a certain level of desire.
You could use it for an end. There's a you could use it for something, right?
Okay, yeah. So like, let's say if there was an alien race that came and they were like, "We want this particular Beanie Baby, or we're going to blow up the world." Well, in that case, I would say, yeah, it's fine to take that Beanie Baby from you.
So you're like a consequentialist, essentially.
No, no, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, it wouldn't give anybody the right to violate your private property rights simply because someone's going to kill someone else. The person who's killing somebody else is responsible for their own action. It isn't on me because I just didn't want to give up my private property that person decided to kill somebody else.
Well, yeah, but according to you, we could just compensate the person for the Beanie Baby and then take the Beanie Baby.
I never said that once through this whole conversation.
You did. You did at the beginning of this conversation. You said that a rights violation can be compensated for in kind. So we take the Beanie Baby from them. We give them I don't know what the Beanie Baby costs. We just give them
Yeah, but
that
that
amount.
doesn't give
Then we
that.
could take
That's
the
not
Beanie
me.
Baby.
That's not me saying that gives you the right to violate that person's to take that Beanie Baby from them. I'm just saying that if you violate a person's right, you have to compensate them somehow.
But yeah, but it nullifies that violation if we compensate them.
Yeah, but that still doesn't make it okay for you to take the Beanie Baby.
I would say it does.
So that's like saying, oh, I raped your cousin, but I gave her a couple $100, so all is well. It's just like, wait a minute, you weren't supposed to rape that person.
No, it's not like that at all.
How? Explain.
You tell me how it is.
Because you violated a person's right in their property.
You wait. Let's go down this.
He asked you to He asked you to justify your claim, and you spun it around.
No,
on him.
don't jump in. I got this. Don't worry.
He's the one.
Lego, you're such a slimy
No. Don't jump in. Don't jump. I got this.
No,
This is a debate between me and him. All right.
Wait. Sithis is the one positing that taking someone's Beanie Baby is equivalent to not equivalent. I guess.
It's a violation of a
raping.
property right. It's a violation of your property right.
You're the one that's positing.
Well, yeah, it's a violation of a person's property right.
You're the one positing rape and taking someone's Beanie Baby as comparable. So I would like you to be the one that justifies that comparison.
I believe that a person has a property right in themselves, and you also have to violate the property right within the Beanie Baby. So if you violate that person's property right by stealing it or raping the person, that would be I'm equivocating it and by saying that they're both a violation of a person's property right, and I think that's wrong.
Okay, so how do you determine how much it's let's just say, I mean, you're the one positing that if you rape someone you can just give them compensation for it.
No. All I said was that if somebody violates another person's property right, I'm not saying it's okay for them to do that. All I'm saying is that person is able to retaliate against you.
No. You agreed earlier in this conversation,
and a way to do that is by giving them compensation.
Let me respond. Right. Okay. There you go. So if someone rapes someone, how do you determine the amount of compensation? What is rape worth in your mind?
It depends on the situation. That's not a.
Okay,
Go into it. It depends on the situation.
Explain it to me. Tell me how you calculate the monetary value of rape.
Well, the thing is.
Wait, can I?
Hold on. The non-aggression principle and property law doesn't tell you what the punishment should be. All it tells you is whether or not there's an aggression or non-aggression. That would depend on the people who are arbitrating over that situation. So I can't. I don't have a concrete answer for that. That's all I'm saying.
I do. Wait, hold up. Let me find it. I have it. Wait, if you guys want me, I don't want to steal it, but I'm just saying I have one.
I mean, if you want him to answer, I feel like this is a debate between me and you.
I don't want to.
I do feel like it's a debate between me and you. Well, how about me and Sithis go for a while, and then maybe we can either switch.
Can I just send you a quick thing in DMs? Because
it's
a pretty cool thing that me and my friend figured out.
Let's schizoid. I love you, man, but
you'll have to talk
myself.
We kind of have to have a debate between me and him. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to. I agree with you, and we're cool, but we gotta. It's between me and him. You know what I mean? What I was saying is, I don't have a definitive answer for that.
But you would say that
there would be some sort of compensation. There would be some compensation.
There's some dollar amount that.
Well, not necessarily a dollar amount, but the dollar amount could be a way to compensate you. But you could retaliate against that person in other ways. That's not the only way you could retaliate against that person.
So let's say a rape has already happened. It's been a couple years, and then we find the guy that did it. Or would you say that?
I think that person should be punished.
Right. So would you say a certain dollar amount being given to the victim is just compensation?
It would depend on what the victim thinks. Or whatever system of arbitration that they have in that area. I can't give you a definitive answer, honestly. I can't.
Well, it seems like you're trying to apply my system now.
How so?
With arbitration.
I never said I was against arbitration.
Okay. So the victim.
My only issue with you earlier was is when arbitration makes with the group ownership and they're making an arbitrary decision. That was my only issue.
Okay. All right.
But in this situation, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But in this situation, there would be because you have a property right in yourself, the arbitrator would obviously side with the victim. But the issue isn't about who is guilty and not guilty. The issue is, how do you compensate that person? Like, how do you deal with that situation? Now, I can't give you a definitive answer as to how that situation would be dealt. It would really depend on where you live and the system that you're under.
Okay, well, I would say that rape is a lot different than taking someone's beanie baby due to the immense amount of harm you're causing a person.
I agree. I'm not saying that it's the same as in it's the same level of harm. I'm saying that they're both a violation of an individual property right.
I don't think it's a violation of property right.
Well, you're using another person's body without their consent. That's a violation of their property right within themselves.
I don't consider this a property issue. I consider it
to me, as a libertarian,
to another person issue.
Yeah, so to me as a libertarian, I believe that I have a property right within myself. So if somebody were to use my body without my consent, to me that would be a violation within my property right of myself. The same thing with a beanie baby. If somebody takes my beanie baby without my consent, to me that would be a violation of a property right. Now, obviously, one is worse than the other. Obviously, one, but there would still be a violation of a property right, and under our opinion, and under a libertarian perspective.
Yeah, I get that. I guess you would consider it a violation of property right, but
I mean, you would too, wouldn't you?
No, I don't consider rape a property violation. I consider it harm to an individual. I consider it harm to the person. So you that's why it's wrong.
But I feel like in a roundabout way, you believe that you own your body. Like, other people aren't allowed to use your body.
No, I don't.
Again, other people aren't allowed to use your body without consent. You're in control of it.
That doesn't make it property.
Then what makes property yours?
What?
And what makes something yours? Your property.
Well, property has to be an external thing to me, for one, and I don't think people can even be property.
Well,
they've been treated.
You can't be a property of another. You can't be a property of another person because you can't detach yourself from your body. But you own yourself.
No, I don't think I own myself. I just am myself.
Are you able to exclude other people from your body without consent and when you haven't committed an aggression?
Yeah, but that's not my criteria for property.
So then what is? That's what I'm asking you.
It has to be an external thing that you have a right to. It's like me.
So what grants you that right?
Myself is the right is going to be granted by whatever the social norms are.
So if you're on an island by yourself and you mix your land with the labor and you cut out a stick, that stick doesn't belong to you?
No. I mean, it's not property. It's not ownership. The ownership in that case doesn't make any sense. There's no society around you to recognize ownership.
Okay, so would that also mean that other people can, if I own something and another person doesn't recognize it and I mix my lamb and labor with it, someone else can take my property without my consent?
I don't consider it your property.
Someone can take that thing without my consent?
They could, yeah, possibly, depending on the circumstances, yeah.
What circumstances would that be okay?
Like
other than an aggression
tree example I gave you.
Other than
the tree example. So, like, let's say you and 10 other people wash up on an island, and you find a coconut tree. We'll say 10 minutes before anyone else does, and you do some minimal amount of homesteading to say, okay, this tree is mine. It's perfectly valid in my mind for those people to go, fuck that. No, it's not your tree. It's the only coconut tree. We're all going to eat from the coconut tree.
Okay, so if you homesteaded a tree and you mix your labor with and a land with tree and another person is starving, that gives them a right to violate your property rights?
You don't have property rights here. It's not your property.
That gives you a right to take that thing from you?
Yeah, they should share with you, but you don't have exclusive rights.
But what gives them the right to do that? Simply because they're dying?
What gives them the right to their autonomy? You don't have a right to exclude them from it.
Why not?
It's not your tree.
Okay. It's as circular as hell. What gives them the right to take my thing?
It's not your thing. That's the point.
Okay, so then what makes something yours? Simply because somebody recognizes it as yours?
Yeah, it has to be socially recognized as yours.
Okay, so if I don't recognize, so the society doesn't recognize your body as being yours, would that give society the right to use your body without consent?
I don't consider my body to be property. Property has to be socially recognized. My body is not property.
Do you belong to your, so do people have the right to use your body without your consent if they don't consider it to be yours?
My body is not property. I don't need social acceptance or recognition of my body. My body is not property.
So what gives you the right to your body?
I am my body.
And
My body is me.
And other people aren't allowed to use your body without consent.
Right.
And you control your body.
I do.
So that's basically ownership. That basically meets all the prerequisites to ownership.
No, it meets yours. It might meet your requisites for property or ownership. But
so if the society considers everybody's body to be a private property, and then they out of nowhere arbitrarily choose that your body isn't private property, they could take your body?
No.
Why not?
Because they'd be mistaken on bodies being property.
So society could be wrong.
Think they have the right.
So society could be wrong.
So why?
Why hand them the keys to make the decisions?
I'm not handing them.
Yes, you are. You're saying that society.
Not on bodies, not on people. I'm not. Well, on people.
You're saying that property is defined by a social acceptance of people. People recognizing that.
Yeah, but I don't consider people property. You do.
But
I don't.
You just said the only prerequisite for something to be property is if other people recognize it as being property. But now you're saying, but people can't be property. So it's either people recognizing it or it's by you.
No.
This thing can be recognized as property, but this thing cannot.
No. For it to be your property requires other people to recognize.
So if we consider bodies to be property, if society considers bodies to be property, and then they'd be like,
society would be wrong about that.
So then what are you basing your property rights on if you're not doing it based off society?
No.
If they
ownership has to be socially recognized.
So again,
you can't own a human.
But you just said ownership is defined by society.
I didn't say ownership is defined by society.
Then what is it defined? Then what is it defined? What is it defined? Who defines ownership? Or what defines ownership?
I have a definition. I gave you my definition.
Yes, so say it again.
An entitlement to a thing. An entitlement to a thing.
Yeah, what gives you that entitlement to that thing?
It has to be socially recognized.
So if people socially recognize your body as being a piece of property, they can take your body without your consent.
No, I don't believe that you can own people.
But you just said that ownership is based off of people's society, but then you're saying I don't think that people can be owned. So is it either society chooses or not?
Ownership standards, how we determine who owns what, is determined by society.
Okay, and society has deemed your body to be owned by somebody else.
No. I said how we determine who owns what, not what can be owned. Who owns what is determined by society.
Who determines what can be owned?
That's a meta-ethical question, I would say.
Yeah, so what do you think?
I think we just have to work it out and try to figure it out through philosophy. What do you mean?
You don't
There's
have
not a single individual. I don't know what.
What makes private property what defines what?
No, that's not what you were asking. Ask me the question you were just asking. I don't know the answer to.
What defines what could be private property? Like, who gets to make that decision?
Whether we can own people, is essentially what you're asking. It's an ethical question that we have to arrive at through philosophy.
See, I have a reason. I have a reason why you can't own other people, because you can't detach yourself from your body, and you have a private property right within yourself. And if somebody violates that property right, okay, so then what is it?
My reason for why you can't own people. You can't own people.
No, I'm
asking you
what makes this thing to be allowed to be owned while this thing is not. Like what determines that? Who determines that?
So it's two different questions. I would say that what determines that we cannot own people is the fact that we are conscious individuals, rationally thinking individuals with our own autonomy that deserve dignity. That's why you can't own a person.
So ownership isn't based off society.
The norms that determine who owns what is based off of society.
I understand that, but I'm asking what you think.
I just told you that's what I think.
So if society considers your body not to be yours or to be a piece of private property,
they would be wrong. They would be violating. They would be unjustly violating my autonomy and my dignity.
But you just said that society determines what is private property, right?
No, that is
Then
not
who
what I
does?
said. What I
Who
said
determines
is that
what is private
this-
property?
I feel like I've answered this a couple times.
Who?
We
You?
what?
Who determines what is private property?
There's no individual that determines it. We just have to go through a process of working through it through philosophy, whether or not we can exclude
Who
certain
determines?
things
Who
from
can
being
determine? Who
property.
determines? Who or what determines what can be private property and what cannot?
Who determines? I mean, I guess you could say, in a sense, then that we decided in the same way
Society,
that
right?
at one point, in the same way that at one point people did think it was okay to have slavery,
So
but it was
society.
wrong because it was still wrong.
So you believe society
because,
is the one that determines what and can and cannot be private property.
No, I would say that it's unjust to own people, even.
Okay, I
even
understand
if
that you believe
society
that, but
decides
you
it.
must answer the question, okay? Who or what determines whether or not a thing is private property, can be private property, or can't?
Society could decide that, but they can be wrong about it.
Oh, I understand that, but who makes that decision?
I just told you, society can make that
So
decision, but
society-
they can be wrong about it.
I understand you can individually, as a person, think that it's wrong, but you believe that ownership is based off of societal recognition, and if society recognizes that you don't own your body, you believe that that would then make it so that you don't own your body, even if you think they're wrong.
They would be wrong.
I understand that you think they're
own
wrong.
my body. They would be wrong about it in that case.
So what are you basing that off of?
I'd already told you.
No, you didn't.
The violation of my autonomy, my dignity.
I understand that, but the problem here is you're saying society determines what can be property, right?
Society is going to come to some decision on that. But they
Can
don't- they don't have
society
the ultimate
decide
authority,
what can
no.
be property? Yes or no?
On a level of truth, no, they can't decide that.
Okay.
Pragmatically,
So
like in
who
practice,
can decide
they can decide it.
who
But
or-
that doesn't make it.
Okay,
true.
so it goes back to my earlier question. Who or what can decide what can be private property?
I don't think anything is deciding this. I guess maybe you need to.
You have
rephrase
to.
the question.
Somebody
I
has
feel like
to.
I've answered it multiple
No,
times.
you have not.
And
You're
you keep
def-
just
you're def-
reacting it.
You're not. You're dodging the question because you understand that by saying society, that leads to pretty dicey situations.
Oh,
So somebody.
already
So is it
answered.
society? Yes or no?
Society can come to a determination.
Is it society? Yes or no?
Society can come to a
Is
determination.
it yes or
but
society?
They
Yes or no?
can, society decides.
Do you need
how
time
we
to answer to think
determine-
about this, or are you unable to answer?
I'm giving you the answer.
You're not giving me the
letting
answer.
answer it.
Yes or
I
no?
keep trying to, but you
It's
keep
yes or no.
interrupting. Society can decide how we determine ownership, but when it comes to the question of what can be owned, that's going to be a philosophical
Who
question.
decides that?
No one decides that.
So then how do we base, like, how do we know what is property rights, what can we be owned, and what can't be owned? We need some
I feel like
standard.
you've answered this
We
a
need
few
a
times
standard.
here. Yeah, if you're violating someone's autonomy and their dignity without just cause, then that's the standard. You can't do that.
I don't think you're understanding the question. The question isn't.
The problem is that you're trying to frame this in a property-only type.
No, I'm just saying. I'm
dynamic,
asking. You're
and it's
saying.
not.
You're saying that our body can't be owned. You're saying that society chooses what can be owned, right?
No.
So
I said society can come to a determination on that, but
And
that
would they be-
society can be wrong about that.
okay, so then who gets to decide what can be owned and what cannot be owned?
No one gets to decide that.
So then how do you know what can be owned and what can't? What's
Through
your standard? Yeah, what's your philosophical standard?
Through philosophical exploration, we can come to different principles that would exclude certain things from ownership.
I don't know. I feel like you're kind of just dodging the question.
I don't think so. I think you're just
I'm
not
asking
accepting the
you.
answer.
You're basically saying that nobody gets to decide what can be owned. So then how do you know what can be owned?
I literally just now answered this.
Do just philosophy?
Yeah, we have to come to principles that we decide exclude certain
So
things from ownership.
society basically comes together and chooses philosophically what can be owned and what cannot be owned.
I don't think they're not going to make the final determination.
And who does?
I mean, I guess a sort of moral realism, I guess we would have to appeal to.
Yeah, so we need some sort of standard, right? And if you don't own your body, right, then, and anyone could define ownership at any point, well then we're basically screwed at that point. We need some sort of standard in which we could go by that can justify other people not being allowed to use our body without consent. And I think ownership of our own body is the perfect thing to fit that mold.
No, I think that's a horrible way of doing it, but
how so? Because if you own something, you have the exclusive right to it. Nobody else is allowed to use it without your consent.
Because you're now just relegating people to being property.
Well, the thing is, you cannot be sold as a piece of property because that would be violating your property rights and in yourself. And if you own yourself,
treating people as property at that point.
We own ourselves. You're not a property of another person.
You're just treating people as property at that point.
Well, yeah, I'm a property of myself. I own myself.
I mean, I don't want to treat people as property. If you do, then that's fine.
Well, I'm not treating other people as my property. I believe that they're their own property.
Just property. Yeah, but they are.
Well, yeah, I think that you shouldn't be. Well, in treating them like property, you mean you're not allowed to use their body without their consent? Then yes, absolutely. I don't think I have the right to use their body without consent.
When you look at a woman, you think that's property. No,
I don't mean it like that.
Property.
I mean,
that is how you mean it.
Well, it's not my property. Her body belongs to her, and that's what I mean. Yeah.
Right.
In that case, then yes.
When you look at a woman, you think that's some property right there.
No, I think that. Damn, she's hot. That's generally what I think, or ugly.
You think there's some property?
No, that's not generally the first thing that I think about. But if you were to ask me if she owns herself, I would say yes. She's her own property.
Right. So if I pointed to a woman and I said, "Is that property?" You go, "Yeah, that's property."
Yeah, property of herself. She owns herself. She owns herself. Property. Yeah, she owns herself. I'm saying yes, she owns herself.
All right. I mean, if you want to recognize, if you want to look at people like property, then that's fine.
Well, we own ourselves. I believe that I own myself, and nobody else has the right to use my body without my consent. Same thing with another piece of property, any other piece of property.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. It's one thing if you were to say, I think she's a piece of property, and I think somebody else should own her. Then that's one thing. But if she owns herself, there's nothing wrong with saying that she owns herself. Right? Don't you disagree?
Okay.
Disagree with that?
Yeah, I would disagree with the idea of looking at people as property.
Okay, that's fine. But you think that society should define what? Ultimately, you think society should determine what should be owned and what shouldn't be owned.
No, I've already said no one gets to make that decision.
So then, who does? Somebody has to make that decision.
I said no one. There's no group or person that gets to decide. I mean, they can make a decision on legally what can be owned.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
In an ethical sense, no group or individual is going to make that decision.
So you're saying that no group will ever come together and be like, hey, I don't think it's right to violate another person's private property rights.
I never said nobody could come together and come to that determination or that conclusion.
Okay, so then what's the issue?
What do you mean?
I
never said that. I never said that.
The issue that I have with what you're saying is you're saying that what is owned, who can own something, or some individual thing should be determined by society, but what could be owned, you don't know.
I think that's something we're still figuring out.
So you don't have an opinion on it?
I have an opinion. I gave you my opinion on it.
I just feel like it doesn't really it's not a solid way of there's no solid way of being like you can't use my body without you can't use another person's body without consent if you don't have some sort of property right within yourself. It just doesn't make sense to me because what like, doesn't you owning yourself basically mean that other people can't use your body without your consent and also do what you want with it as long as you're not violating other people's consent?
I don't think we need to view people as property to come to that conclusion.
So how do you come to that conclusion without coming to a situation where someone can justify using your body without your consent?
I already told you the violation of autonomy and dignity. Unjust violation is wrong.
So if you don't own your body, if you don't own something, does that give other people the right to use that thing?
No.
So let's say there's a cow in the middle of a field. Does nobody have the right to use that and nobody owns it?
We don't afford cows that same level of dignity, and I think for good reason.
Why not?
I would say they don't have the awareness and the consciousness that we have. They don't have a mind like ours. And I would say that
Yeah, but
even
it
if
doesn't
a
matter.
human didn't.
But the thing is, right, if that cow isn't owned by anybody, you can go and use that cow without anyone's permission, right?
And I would say even if a human didn't have the same properties that I'm describing,
yes or
the
no?
fact that they, yes or no, what?
Can you use that cow without other people's consent?
And no one owns the cow?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kill the
other
cow and
peop-
eat the cow.
Yeah, can other people use the cow without your consent if nobody owns it?
Yeah, other people can use, no one owns the cow.
So if you don't own your body, wouldn't that give me the right to milk you?
No, because property is not the only thing we have to consider.
Then what else are you considering?
I've literally answered this so many times. The
All right, that's
autonomy
fine.
and dignity of an individual.
But I feel like
Have
bodily
I not
autonomy
said
is just
this?
another roundabout way of saying that you owned yourself. Nobody else
No, it's not.
All right, that's fine. We can move on.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
All right. But I still haven't really, I feel like I still haven't, my only thing is I feel like I haven't really gotten a good definitive answer as to how do you really determine what can be owned and what can't be owned. It seems it's pretty arbitrary.
I think it's just something we have to discover through philosophy. I don't think it's something that we can decide.
So until then, we sort of just make our decisions arbitrarily. Is that what you're saying?
We do make our laws and our rules that govern it. I wouldn't say they're arbitrary, but I mean, yeah, we
It's based
we
on
are
your own
going
whims
to
and
do
wishes,
that.
basically.
No,
Not
I
based
don't
on
think
a
so,
system.
but no, I would say it's on a system. It's based off of our current understanding and culture. I mean, it's based on a lot of things, but
It's not based on a system. It's based on your opinion.
it's not based off of my opinion.
Well, whoever's making the decision.
It's based off of collective opinion. Yeah, you could say that.
So again, it's arbitrary.
That's not arbitrary, but
Arbitrary is
sure.
when you make a decision not based off of a system, but based off of whims and wishes. If you're making a decision based off of other people's whims and wishes, you're making it done arbitrarily. You're not doing it based off a system.
So your system is arbitrary.
No. Well, yes and no. The thing is,
Yes.
I agree with
you
it.
You can just stop at yes.
Hold on. I arbitrarily agree with it because I think that other people shouldn't violate the other.
Well, the system is itself
but
arbitrary.
the decisions that we make within the system isn't arbitrary. We do it based off of a system.
Yeah,
No.
the system is arbitrarily
When you have two
constructed,
people
so
who
it's
have,
arbitrary.
No, because if there's two people that have a conflict over a good or service, we know who the just winner in that situation. We're not going to make the decision arbitrarily.
Okay, but
You're building it based off of the non-aggression.
arbitrary. But that
It's arbitrary in the sense that I agree with it. That I think it's the best
it's
system.
arbitrary in the
but the
sense
decision that we're
the
making is
system
not
itself
arbitrary.
is built on arbitrariness. The system itself is built on arbitrary.
You're
set
not
of
making the
whims.
decision based off of another person's whims and wishes. You're basing it
Yeah.
off of a system.
No, yeah, but that system is arbitrary. So you are still just okay. We have a legal system right now, so it's not arbitrary, right? You would say, oh, well, no, that legal system is a result of our whims, so therefore the legal system is arbitrary. Okay, so your system is also arbitrary because it's just based off of your whims and the whims of other people who agree with your system.
Yeah, but the thing is that the difference between my system and, say, like your system is that when the only thing that's arbitrary about it is that we agree with it because we think it's a better way of listening to things.
I've already said
But
that's not the only thing arbitrary. The system is itself arbitrary. There's nothing in your system that is objectively derived. The
decisions that are made,
the principles within your system are arbitrary.
Mm-hmm. But the decisions that are made,
the system is itself arbitrary.
Yes, but the decisions that are made are based off of the system. It's not based off of arbitrary system.
Okay.
If you're talking about if you're
your
talking about a
adherence to the system
situation
is
where somebody
arbitrary and the system is arbitrary, so everything here is arbitrary. There's nothing not arbitrary here.
all right, if that's what you believe, man.
I mean, you're saying that if we apply
There's no what I mean by
written legal
arbitrary is there's no
system-
clear winner in that situation.
No, that's not what you meant by arbitrary. But
You're making
by
a decision. You're
arbitrary-
going to be making the decision
No.
off
You're
of your own
saying that
whims
a
and wishes.
written
You're not
legal
basing it
system
off
is-
of a
you're saying that
rule.
You're saying that a written legal system is arbitrary because we influence what that legal system is. Right? That's why the legal system's arbitrary?
No, what I'm saying is if you're doing you're basing your decisions based off of arbitrary based off of majority opinions, that decision would be made arbitrarily. If you're doing it based off of a system,
is the legal
it's different.
system arbitrary? Is the legal system
Whether
arbitrary?
or not you're agreeing with it or not, I mean whether is arbitrary, but whether with the decisions that are made within that system is not necessarily arbitrary.
So
'Cause
the
you're doing
legal
it based
system
on-
is not arbitrary then?
But the decision, like the problem is, right, is that
Well, I just want a yes or no. Is the legal system arbitrary?
what it depends on whether or not you're making decisions based off of it.
Yeah, we're making decisions based off of
Oh,
it.
in that
Is the legal
situation, no.
system arbitrary? Okay, so my system's not arbitrary because we have a legal system that we're basing our decisions off of.
Yeah, but the thing
So my
is, you
system
can't.
is not arbitrary.
The problem,
According to you, my system's not arbitrary. That's what you basically just said verbatim.
the problem is, right, is when you have a system where there's two people and they have a conflict. When you have a person that owns the private property, there could be one person that owns it and they're the one that automatically wins, and the person who doesn't own it is the one that doesn't win. So the decision is basically made based on the property rights of the individual.
So
Whereas
my
yours-
system would determine the outcome based off of the legal system, which is not arbitrary according to you. So therefore, my system is not arbitrary.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's no clear owner
There
in
is.
that situation.
Well, the winner is clear, and it's determined through a non-arbitrary system. So therefore, it's not arbitrary.
Well, it depends on. Well, I mean, if you're doing it in that way, it's not arbitrary. But generally, the thing is,
Okay,
you
so my
don't.
system's
But
not
the problem
arbitrary.
is, there isn't a law for every situation. For instance, if you have a situation where I own a house and I want to paint the house red, and you want to paint
I
the
already
house
gave
green.
you the rule. Wait. I already gave you a rule that addresses.
But status quo, that is pretty arbitrary.
Okay,
there
tell
is
me
no-
why that's
there is-
arbitrary then.
well,
Okay,
because-
let's go into that then.
because-
That might be interesting. Why is
Yeah,
that
because
arbitrary?
who gets to determine what's the status quo?
What do you mean? That's the status quo is lack of change.
Yeah, but the
Well,
status
it's-
quo can't solve for that situation. There's two different
Yeah,
situations.
what do you mean? Okay,
Because
so
they're-
tell me
they're-
why
they're
the status
want-
quo can't solve for this.
Because they want to paint the house two different things. They both
Okay,
want to
so
paint
the
the house.
status quo
They
is-
both want to
the
change the status
is
quo.
not- okay, so the status quo does not get changed because they can't come to an agreement. So therefore, it's
So
not
then no
arbitrary.
decision is made.
A decision is made. The decision is made to not paint the house.
I know,
and
but
it's
if there
not an
was a
arbitrary-
decision, if
and
there
it's-
was a decision
do you-
made,
Do you
would-
agree that this is a non-arbitrary decision to not paint the house? This is not arbitrary, right? Because
if you
it's based
make
off of a
that
legal
deci- if you make the decision to not allow neither of them to, but if you make a decision on either side, and there's no
right,
law,
I wouldn't.
and
There wouldn't be. The
and there's-
decision would be to leave the house.
Are you going to
as
allow me to
is.
finish, bro? You keep interrupting me.
Why-
I think the
why
reason
are
why
you-
you're
why-
interrupting me is because you're scared to hear what I have to say because you understand that your argument is
No,
flawed.
I'm interrupting you because you're ignoring my position and you're arguing against a position that isn't mine, which
Okay,
is
so
silly.
all I'm saying
So
is
just argue against my position.
I am arguing against your position. I'm saying
Okay,
that.
so there's a rule in place that's not
All right, so I'm going to
arbitrary.
lower your
So why are
volume
you-
for a second then. All I'm
Okay,
saying
go.
is that what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, if you own something, right, and there's a just winner within that situation, and if there's a situation where you can't rely on the status quo, you have no choice but to make an arbitrary decision if there's no law to base your decision off of. Like, is there a law that says you have to paint your house red or green?
Yeah, I've already. If you'd like to address my position, I'll talk.
I just
I'll
did.
respond. No, I've already given you the answer.
You just asked
So if
me
you wanna-
where is the arbitrary decision, and I just answered.
Do you agree that my system's not arbitrary? Then?
I'm agreeing that it is arbitrary if you don't have a law to make the decision, and there is no
Did I
law.
already point a law? Wait. Did I already point a law out to you multiple times?
So
to
you're
come to
saying that there's a
decision on this.
law that you're saying that if two people want to paint their house red.
Tell me what you think.
Okay, so I'm
I
gonna lower
might
your volume real
suggest the
quick.
law is.
So let's say there's two people that they want to paint their house red and green. You're saying that there's a law that says they have to choose one way or the other.
What is the law? I've already told you multiple
So
times to deal with
there
this
is no law
situation.
for that. So you have to make the choice
I have.
arbitrarily.
I've told it to
So
you
which way do
multiple
they?
times.
So which way do they go? Which is it, red or green?
I've told it's maintains the status quo. Neither. You don't paint it either color.
I understand, but if you make a decision one way or another, and there's no law to
You-
base that decision off of, you have to make it
Making
arbitrarily.
making a decision one way or the other is not my position. So
But then,
can you engage
and then
with
my problem with
position,
your
which is
problem
that
with
you would
your position is
maintain
that
the
you're just
status
kicking the can.
quo?
You're kicking the can down the road, and
No.
you're not really solving
I'm
the
not.
conflict.
I am solving it. The status quo is maintained until they come to an agreement.
But if they don't ever come to an agreement,
Then the
you're not
status
solving
quo
the
is
conflict.
maintained.
Then you're
Then
not
the
solving
status
the
quo gets
conflict. You're not
Yes, I
solving the
have-
conflict because
I
you're
have
just
solved the
because then
conflict.
nobody is winning out in that conflict.
Conflict is the desire for mutually exclusive action. If you prevent attempts or aggression at mutually exclusive action, you have resolved the conflict. You've
So
solved
you're
the
saying
conflict.
that if nobody's able to make a decision as to what they want with their property, you've resolved the conflict because now none of them are able to do what they want.
We're preventing aggression. That's what's solving the conflict.
That's not what solving a conflict is.
It is.
Preventing aggression isn't solving a conflict. It is figuring out who's the rightful winner in that conflict.
Right. And we have figured that out. Neither.
No.
The
So
status
then you
quo is
haven't
maintained.
solved the conflict.
We have solved the conflict.
All right, if that's what you think.
Yeah, that is what I think.
All right.
Neither person gets to violate the other's right. That's solving the conflict.
Again, if they don't ever come to an agreement, you haven't solved the conflict because nobody
Neither
wins.
person's rights are being violated. The conflict is resolved.
All right. Is that it?
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I mean, I assume the discussion is now over, right?
Yes.
Could we speak on this? Okay. Wait, Legos is true? It's over, done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, yeah, sure. So here, I assume the proposition is being disputed over what is ownership, or something else.
That's part of it.
It was
yeah.
a part of it, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, I'm not even sure. Wait, hold up. I'm just trying to connect myself.
Maybe I could say something real quick since Moxie,
He's moxing around.
He's moxing around, yeah. I think to maybe help out Sithis a bit here, maybe what he's trying to say that there is no conflict resolved is that
Yeah.
he's saying maybe what Lego's saying is that in a sense the conflict is resolved. There's no physical coercion, right? But maybe what Sith is trying to say is that the conflict still remains because we still have those conflicting desires,
Yep.
those conflicting wants.
Yes.
Maybe that's what Sith is trying to get.
That is what I'm trying to say.
And I can respond to that. I would say that if that is his meaning, then his system also maintains the conflict and does not resolve the conflict, because in his system there does still remain conflicting desire. So that disagreement over what should happen remains, even if you do come to a. So let's say we have his system and we decide, okay, well, the husband gets to paint the wall his color. Well, that doesn't resolve the conflict. The wife is still pissed. The wife still wants the wall to be a different color. That conflict is still there. You've actually probably amplified the conflict.
Well,
So if
all you've
that's
done,
your
no.
meaning,
What
then
she's
your
done is
system's
she started
worse
a
for
new
this
conflict.
situation.
You resolved one conflict, and she's upset with it, and she started another conflict.
Well, you haven't resolved the conflict. How have you resolved the conflict? The wife's still pissed. The
Well,
wife
the wife
still
could
wants
be
it to be
pissed,
the
but
other color.
the thing is, the decision
How-
has been made.
so-
And all I'm
Okay,
saying
so
is
making-
that. Hold
making
on,
a
allow me to
decision doesn't
respond.
resolve
Okay,
the
I'll just lower your
conflict.
volume again, I guess. So
Okay.
if you, because he keeps interrupting me, bro. This guy keeps interrupting me.
Well,
So
problem
all I'm
I
saying,
have-
all right, I
I'll
guess I'll just lower
well,
your
let
volume
me
again.
say-
So what I was gonna say is that when there's two people that own something, and there's two people that own something at the same time, right? Both of them can't do what they want with it at the same time. And if there's two people, one person wants to do the house, paint the house red, and the other person wants to paint the house blue. You can't.
problem I have is that he wants to treat it as resolving the
Oh, he muted me?
conflict in his system just because a decision was arrived at. But when it's my system, just arriving at a decision does not resolve the conflict because there's still disagreement. But in his system, even though the disagreement remains,
He's allowed to
the
interrupt
conflict
me.
is resolved because a conclusion was reached. So there's a double standard being reached here, is how I feel. But now I'll let you explain.
Oh, now I'm allowed to
let's let this
speak.
go.
So he's
Let's
allowed
just-
to interrupt me without any issue, and then if I try to interrupt him, he's allowed to mute me. We're perfect.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, Cithis, I don't want to be a smartass here, but wouldn't under an ANCAP society, couldn't Lego just say, well, it's my property, my Discord
Yeah,
server?
technically, yes, he could do
No.
that, but I can also agree that that's unfair. You know, I may not like what he's doing with his property, but I can still agree that it's unfair. But anyways, in the end of the fucking day, if you're not really resolving the conflict, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. If one decision isn't being made on one way or another, that conflict is still going to be there. If you're going to make a decision in that situation where two people own something, it's going to have to be done arbitrarily. And that's all I have to say.
Wait.
I gave it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, here, I guess we can like tackle like the conflict issue. Like, presumably, there's some way to, I guess, avoid. I mean, to resolve conflict. I guess I assume there's going to be some. In any society, there would be like kind of systems of rules right in place, right, to resolve any type of conflict, right? Or to even, like, I guess, like, avoid conflict. But I mean, if we're talking about like, well, on our accounts of like ownership, having conflict or conflict being possible, do you think that's like at least a reductio towards like Lego's position or something, or are you saying something else differently? Because it seems like
I can't understand. I don't
being
even understand what the hell you even asked me, bro.
Is that like I said simply like no. I said simply like, and regarding kind of like having conflicts, right? The fact that like conflicts are possible within someone's system, is that like an issue? That
No.
it-
It's about the issue is about there should be a non-arbitrary way to deal with these situations. And when you make for group ownership, there is no unarbitrary way. We just think it's a inefficient way to deal with situations, making arbitrary decisions based on whims and wishes of individuals who live within a country. I think that it's just better to have a system of individual private property rights, so that when somebody violates another private property right, you could just very easily be like, oh, well, that guy owns it, so therefore he wins. That person owns it, therefore he wins. It's not that I disagree with the system simply because there's going to be conflicts. There's going to be conflicts in any system, no matter what. It's just how you resolve those conflicts, and I think that it's much more efficient to do so when you have individual property rights.
Yeah, I mean, I assume like thinking because I'm too like not informed on this like on
That's
this
fine.
like side of like the I don't know like is there like a stance or like I don't know stances on like property
If you want to know our
ownership or
stances on
something, but-
property, no offense, but you kind of came in a little late. You'll have to rewatch the VOD. Yeah, I don't
Dang,
wanna,
bro.
I don't mean to be rude, but we kind of been over this for the last hour and a half. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to like repeat myself over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be rude. I
That's
do like you
fine.
guys, but you
Thank you. I like
and
what
it's
you
another
guys say,
sneaky
yeah.
way to promote my YouTube channel, which you guys would definitely check this out on. So
Damn, bro. Bro's advertising himself, bro.
all right, are we done? Is that it?
Let's see here. I mean, yeah, I did come in late because I was in a different Discord.
Mhm.
I was doing something, but yeah, I mean, that's all I have really. That's all. That was only my comment about the conflicting desires thing, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's about it.
All right,
Well,
so that's it.
I have like one interesting question that is like not depending on the sort of like a topic, but I guess broadly within your like view, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, will you be like down to discuss like maybe like do you have like a ethical system at all? Like I assume like it's
I
like
believe in Rothbardian natural law, and my ethical system would be, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm not. I'm pretty sure I believe in the non-aggression. I believe in the non-aggression principle. And when it comes to like the law, I believe in Rothbardian natural law, private property rights theory.
yeah.
like that.
So maybe like there's something we can do with the aggression
Yeah, if you want to set up a
but,
debate
yeah,
between me and you and a discussion, just DM me and we could get it set up, man.
sure.
No problem, man. Check me out on
So
YouTube.
this was fun. Sithis.
It was
I
fun.
enjoyed it.
I had a great time. I felt like it was definitely better than last time.
Yeah, I tried to keep myself under control, but as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
The
I know
problem
it's
is that
hard.
we just have a clash of two masculine
But will you
two
say-
masculine men. That's the problem. That's
Would
why
you say that I at least addressed your points, unlike a lot of other guys? You know what I'm saying? I feel like I at least tried to address each one of your points.
Yeah, I said yesterday that unironically that you're like the best ANCAP because you do at least engage with the material. Like even if I don't like how you're answering at times or things like that, like or stylistic disagreements, things like that, you're at least engaging.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's
So,
fair. I
yeah.
appreciate that, and I feel like arguing with you over the last couple of days and our DMs has sort of made me understand my views a little bit more, kind of pushed me to definitely read into it a little bit more. So, and it made me prepare for this discussion a lot more. So, I appreciate that.
Well, and I would say you've actually pushed me towards a weird. I'm trying to figure out if I can do like a contextualism for my moral realism at this point.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's that mean?
Yeah. So,
cool.
Wait, what does that mean?
so like, I was already kind of moving into contextualism, which is basically like I don't know on a certain level, but like I feel like I know on this level. So like I know I have hands in the matrix, but I don't know if I'm in the matrix
Mhm.
type thing. But the same thing for moral realism, and maybe 12, you can kind of expand on this for me because I don't even know if this has problems, but like within the
Epistemic?
matrix, yeah, like an epistemic problem I'm running into. Like, can I like hold to a moral realism within the matrix? Like, yeah, we are discovering morality, our true morality in the matrix that perhaps outside the matrix doesn't hold, but I can't conceive of what's outside the matrix or like a like a fifth or sixth dimension. Like I can't conceive of morality in that dimension. So like maybe it doesn't hold there. And so I can have a sort of skepticism about that, but still maintain moral realism within the reality that I perceive. Does that work? Is that
I-
coherent? Or
If I were to,
if
were
I
to-
could, sorry.
Yeah,
You go ahead
hold on.
first.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. If I were to try to, I mean, my answer for that would probably be something like, it seems like you're trying to say is that, on the face of it, moral realism is true, or I perceive some moral reality, but I don't think I can perceive all of the moral reality. And if that's really what you're getting at, then yes, I would classify you as a moral realist. Yeah, I think that's what you're
that, but
saying, right? Or
but also that I can't prove it. Like that's my real hang up with moral realism is like I can't prove it. It just seems like it just feels and appears to be the case to me. Like there's an intuition
based
that
on
there is a moral
preference?
realism.
Like your preference.
Not even preference.
not even
Like I
probably,
would
but intuitions. Yeah.
Intuition, yeah.
So yeah, so real quick, Lego. Yes, the thing is that with something like moral realism, since it's something meta, right? Meta, it's a meta means beyond. Usually, when it
Yeah,
comes to meta stuff like metaphysics or meta epistemology, you can't necessarily prove things once you're at that level, because again, it's meta. So, but that doesn't mean because in epistemology and in philosophy in general, you can know things to be true without knowing without proof, and when I say proof, as in like through an argument or through empirical observation or empirical demonstration. And the reason why is because moral realism, it's typically understood to be like non-inferential, right? It's pretty much a non-inferential justification, right? It's and when you try to prove things like, let's say 2 + 2 = 4, or the external world is real, or maybe try to prove something like, hey, the shortest path between 2 points is a straight line, you can't necessarily prove those three things I just listed because they're just in a sense first principles, right? They're basic truths, right? The moment you understand them, you can see with your mind's eye that it's true. There's no need to prove it, right? Because the alternative is really just extreme skepticism.
I'm starting to really get into argumentation ethics, which is essentially that which is essentially that people who don't agree with the non-aggression principle are the non-aggression principle is an objective truth, and everybody agrees with it without necessarily saying that they do by acting and not aggressing. When you act and you speak or you have a conversation with somebody, as opposed to committing an aggression, even if you say, I think we should commit an aggression, you inadvertently are saying that I think that arguing is better than aggressing. Because if you thought that aggressing was better than arguing, well, then you would have just simply aggressed. But instead, you argued. So even if, so implicitly, you agree with the non-aggression. Everybody agrees with the non-aggression principle, unless they're only aggressing. But I don't think anyone can only aggress. People can act. And people who only aggress, we would consider them to be insane or unreasonable.
Yeah, real quick for Sithis, and then I also want to ask Lego if my answer satisfied him. But yeah, with Sithis,
it did.
Okay, awesome, Lego. Thanks. For Sithis, I would classify what you just said. It seems to me the NAP or what you just said now it's almost like you're giving a transcendental argument. It kind of reminds me, to give an example, let's say, I don't know, when someone's trying to say there is no truth, right? There is no objective truth. He's implicitly trying to say that, there is actually an objective truth, and the objective truth is that there's no objective truth, right? It seems to me, it's a transcendental argument.
Like people are contradicting themselves by saying that they don't. If they say they don't believe that aggressing is good, but by making that argument, they're basically admitting that they think that arguing is better than aggressing, because if they wanted to aggress, well, they would just simply aggress.
Wait, why would...
No, it's okay. I'll go and then Moxie, because Moxie did want to say something. I don't know if I have a problem with that, but I do know what you're getting at, though. It just sounds to me it's pretty much transcendental arguments.
What does transcendental mean? I'm sorry.
It's pretty much principles that when a person's trying to prove something the opposite of, they're still using the principle. So maybe
So absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a classic example would be, like the laws of logic. If some dude says, "Yeah, I think the law of non-contradiction is false," like he's still using the law of non-contradiction. Right?
Yes.
It even says so on the Wikipedia page, like, "Hey, this principle, even if you try to deny it or prove it, you're still using it, no matter what."
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the non-aggression principle is basically that, like what you said, transcendental.
Transcendental.
Yes.
I can link the Wikipedia page. Transcendental.
Yeah, if what you're saying is true, then yes, that would be transcendental, because it's kind of hypocritical, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So there is the philosophy page on it and the wiki page.
So Lego, what do you think about that?
Or Moxie? I think Moxie wanted.
Or Moxie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. So there's like two issues. One, it's just like I don't see how it's like entailed. Me, this like right now, we're like arguing. I don't know how that entails like NAP is true. And additionally, I don't even know like what like it'd be like really hard to like hash out like aggression if it just doesn't mean like violence or something, right? But
violence, an aggression would be you committing physical violence upon another person without any justification or prior aggression. And if me and you are having a conversation, and even if you tell me, "Hey, I want to aggress upon you," you're basically making an argument as opposed to aggressing. So you're implicitly saying, you're saying without actually meaning it, that you prefer arguing over committing an aggression.
Yeah. So here, there's going to be two explanations, right? Explanation is the one that you hypothesize, and the other one would be the one that that I get. I guess like I'm the trying to like, I guess articulate. So, I mean, why can't I just say, well, what's happening here is simply I just have like an attitude towards just like talking to people rather than like aggressing to people, rather than like attacking people.
Are you choosing are you choosing to speak or make an argument over aggressing?
I just have like an attitude towards just like
people
rather than like arguing.
So even if attacking. So even if So even if you say you disagree that hurting people is okay, or you say you agree that hurting people is okay, you're still making an argument over. You're still choosing to make an argument over committing an aggression. So you may say one thing, but your actions basically say another thing.
Yeah, I'm not understanding. So like that's the thing that like how are you like basing on like how do you, so here
Mhm.
if Moxie argues then NEP is true. It seems like that's like kind of like the
If you
I guess
argue
the
as
what's
opposed,
being
you
argued,
no,
like,
I'm not saying. I'm saying that if you argue, you're admitting that the NAP is true yourself.
damn, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Well,
Because
yeah.
you're
The
making
idea
an
is simply-
argument over aggressing,
It's
basically.
like a performative contradiction, Moxie.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's what
I
Sid's trying
understand
to
the
get.
I understand the performative contradiction. I'm just I want to know like how that that entails just me arguing with someone entails like necessarily like the NAP is true.
But
That's the
because
thing
you're
I'm, like,
choosing
somehow
to
not
argue as
understanding.
opposed to commit an aggression, and if you're choosing to argue as opposed to
And
committing
yeah.
as opposed to committing an aggression, well then you're choosing the non-aggression principle.
No, I'm just choosing it because I just prefer it. I just like have like an
Well,
attitude
no matter
towards
what
like
reason you choose, you're choosing to be nonviolent, not to commit an aggression.
yeah because I prefer like talking to people.
So you prefer the
Within the current
NAP.
So maybe we're like confused. Wait, so you take the NAP to be what again? Sorry,
The
like, what
non-aggression
commitments are
principle.
being made? Yeah, you take the NAP to make what commitments again? Because maybe that's maybe I'm
That
wrong.
means that you don't have a right to aggress upon another person without any prior aggression.
And that right we mean by what again?
Well, you're that means that you would be allowed to do that. It would be a recognized thing that you're allowed to do.
Okay, and by allowed you mean like
You're not
theoretically
you're
it's
not allowed to
permissible.
aggress upon another person without a prior aggression. So if I haven't
Wait,
done
no,
anything to
no.
you,
I mean like
you can't do something to
by
me
right. Is
without
that
my
going to be
consent.
like a deontic? By deontic, it just mean like what's some way can we express the idea?
The ontology?
No,
Is that
no,
what you're referring to?
deontic.
Oh,
Like a
deontic,
deontic modality, right? Just saying like something either permissible,
I'm not
obligatory.
sure what that means, honestly.
Just like think
I'm
about
just
it. So you
saying
know how
that the non-aggression principle just means that you're not allowed to aggress or use physical force without the other person's consent if they haven't aggressed on you. Like that's pretty simple, right? You understand that, right?
Could I add something really quickly to like help the debate?
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the criteria, I'm not saying this is the only criteria, one of the criteria we could add to what a moral action is a justified action.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're right that it is a performative contradiction, then it is not a justified action. So it couldn't be a moral action. And then you have your performative contradiction doing the work there.
Yeah, it's like you're saying one thing but you're doing another thing. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
think of it like this, Moxie. I can't speak English. It's like that, you know.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's clear to me. Like, so, like, I get the like, I can conceptualize, I understand what you're saying, right? The issue is like, I can't do it for this, for like the things that he's saying. Like, I don't see how me just like deciding to like argue against them, right?
Because
you're
because through
arguing-
your
Just entails
actions,
that I prefer-
you're choosing non-aggression over aggression, and psychologically, it entails that you prefer non-aggression over aggression. Therefore, NAP, bruh.
Yep.
Wait, how? Yeah, I can so I can like prefer. Yeah, I can prefer like just like talking to people rather than being aggressive, right? But why
Yeah.
would that be like some? What? Yeah, why would I be committed towards like some?
Well, that is what the non-aggression
view.
principle is. That is, if you say that you don't think it's right to, or you don't do commit an aggression upon another person, and you choose to argue, you're adhering to the non-aggression principle without really knowing. You may not mean to, but you are
maybe
doing it implicitly with your actions.
Yeah, Moxie. Maybe here's the thing, because it's possible for someone to be having a performative contradiction, but they don't recognize it. You know.
Mhm.
And maybe I'm
Yeah,
not trying
I
to
grant
say
that it's possible. I did think that I'm not granting is simply that implies some right. Like, why?
I
would
never
that
applied a right.
Sorry, is that not what the NAP is?
No, it's a
like,
principle.
committing
The
themselves to?
NAP is a principle to adhere to. that we adhere to.
Like a moral principle,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
That's the issue. Do you not see the issue? Just like I don't. Why am I committed towards this like norm?
Well, because by arguing, you are in it. I'm gonna explain this one more time because I'm not sure how to explain this to you, in a way for you to understand. But basically, when
Before
you,
you start, you mind if I say something real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
I think the issue is that in Moxie's worldview, Moxie, you don't believe in categorical normativity, right?
I
'Cause
think
that
it's possible. I think it's possible that I can be motivated towards it. Yeah, but
because I think that's what may be doing the work. Because Moxie believes in hypothetical normativity, which he thinks that he's morally obligated to do something if he desires it or something along those lines.
no, not that like it. It's like not that like not that like it's desirable or something, but the
Oh, okay.
like when I'm thinking about like the norms aspect, and this is the thing I'm gonna bring up to it, and simply like why should this like norm govern my behavior? Like, is there something that like that like motivates me, or additionally
Oh, I know what you're
yeah.
saying.
Yeah,
The
because I
norm.
think if even if he thinks it's a right, that's fine. What I'm gonna
I'm
say
not.
is
I'm not
simply
saying the non-aggression principle is a right. It's just a
it's a
principle.
moral right. It's a moral right. So if it's a moral right, it has to have some normativity for it to be a moral right. Doesn't have any more normativity.
It's not a moral right. It's a principle.
Well, in the recording you said it's a moral right, or you said first it was a right, then a moral
No.
right,
I'm gonna
and
mute.
then it's
You
not a
guys
moral
keep
right.
going.
I never said it was a right. I just said that it's a principle. It's a rule that we adhere to.
You don't have a right to aggress upon others. You don't think you said that in the
But
conversation?
that's not granting you a right. That's telling people
Sorry.
that they don't have a right to use your body without your permission.
Wait.
Wait, hold on. So how about this? Would you agree with this statement?
Hmm.
You have the right to not be aggressed by others without your consent. Natural right, moral right, because a natural right is literally a moral right. That's in the moral philosophy.
I guess
when
you
it
could
comes
say
to-
that. I guess you could say that. Yeah. Now that I think
Okay,
about it, yeah. I mean, I think you could say that, but I'm not sure how that's much different than what I just said.
Okay.
Because
Okay, go ahead, Moxie. Yeah, go ahead.
because I can accept that sort of like statement because well there's this moral value that like I think it seems to be apparent in this.
No, I guess what I'm
Because this
saying is
causes
that
suffering.
you
That's-
are making an
that's the thing
argument
I'm saying.
towards me. You're making an argument towards me, right? Right?
Yeah.
So that means that you prefer to make an argument as opposed to committing an aggression.
Yeah, I can have that preference.
So you're adhering to the non-aggression principle.
That's where I disagree.
So
Why
Yeah,
does it entail?
I think what's doing the work for Moxie is that Moxie, you think the only thing you should prefer is not necessarily rights, but it's whatever conduces to well-being or pleasure. Correct?
Yeah, the sort of rights thing. Yeah, I think it's gonna reduce down to just like some intrinsic value, and I think I take the intrinsic value to be just reduced down to just like good experiences, bad experiences.
Yeah, maybe Sithis could maybe strengthen his case by saying you are implicitly affirming the NAP through your actions because you recognize non-aggression is more pleasurable than aggression, which typically results in pain. What do you think of that, Moxie?
So, I
Yeah, that's
can
a pretty
grant
good
that
one,
like
yeah.
it's a
Not blind.
I grant that it's like a heuristic, right? But I wouldn't consider it to be like a rate. So that's the issue. I don't
Yeah.
like it's a really good way of like making decisions or decision making but I don't know how that entails it being like a rate or something or like an axiom or something.
Okay, real quick, Moxie. Is the issue because I know utilitarianism? They think, and again, not all utilitarians, but they think rights is pretty much nonsense on stilts. Do you think maybe that's why you're having a problem here, or having because I don't think you take rights seriously per se, because since all that matters is just maximization of well-being or pleasure, right? Maybe that's what's doing the work, perhaps, or what do you think?
It's not that like I don't take so like I said, I think you already know my view regarding kind of like the rights talk. Like I think there's these like fictional rights that are conducive towards like well-being that sometimes are not pleasurable in a moment or something, right? So like the right to like the right not to suffer, maybe the right to like the right over like autonomy over your body, right? Those type of rights like I grant, right? My issue is simply I just this sort of thing that he's invoking, or whatever like axiom or right he wants, like I don't know, whatever like way he wants to articulate the view. Like the thing that I have issue is somehow me preferring some state is some entails necessarily like that I value or care about like an axiom, this axiom particularly. Like
It would be
or
hypocritical
granted
for you to say
existence.
otherwise, because you're basically going against your own actions. Basically, you're saying you're doing something, but then you're acting in another way. So I go based off of people's actions, not by
Yeah,
what
the
people
action
say.
is simply the motivation for why like an agent does this would be because
So for instance,
they
if
prefer it
I
or like they have
yeah,
like an
so for
attitude towards
instance,
it.
if me and you are in a relationship or something like that, and then I'd be like, we're in a homosexual, I don't know what gender you are, I'm sorry. Let's say you're in a relationship and I keep telling you over and over and over, I'm never gonna cheat on you, I would never cheat on you, but then every weekend I'm going and getting fucked by in the ass by this guy over here, right? Would you judge me
No.
based off
I
on
don't
my
get the
words, or
idea.
would you judge me based off of my actions?
Yeah, like I get the idea. The issue isn't like I don't understand like a performative contradiction. Like I understand what a performative contradiction is.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is simply how like I'm looking at this as like a syllogism or something and saying, okay, agent A prefers talking than aggressing, therefore NAP is true. Like how does that work? I don't.
Well,
Like that's
because
that's the thing that I have issue with.
that you agree with it implicitly, like you agree with it without you don't even if you don't say you agree with it, you're agreeing with it by not arguing. You're performatively agreeing with it. It's kind of like when I told you before. If I say, "Oh, I'm never gonna cheat on you," I'll never cheat on you. But if I'm going out and getting fucked in the ass by another guy every single weekend, well, I am basically saying one thing and then doing another. My actions basically tell you what
Speak
I
louder
actually
than
believe.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about this, Moxie? Because one of the very first principles of morality, it's pretty much, it goes like this. It says, "Do good, and avoid evil." Right? Do good and avoid evil. But that first principle of morality is also like a psychological principle, in the sense that you actually cannot. Every action you take, you will always take that action because you think it's good, even though you may be mistaken. And even when you do commit a bad action, you will only do it because you thought it was good, and then you later realize, oh, that was actually bad. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's what KingSithis is also trying to get at
Mm-hmm.
there. Yeah, he's trying to say, hey, every action we take, we'll always take it because we think it's good, right? Even if it's evil, we'll still think it's good in the moment. Therefore, when you prefer or when your actions are non-aggressive, you're implicitly saying, yeah, non-aggression is good,
Or at least better than the alternative.
or better than
Here,
the alternative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
here's this is the thing that will help me out. You just like type it out or something. Type out like the the schema for the non-aggression principle, because maybe from there, maybe you can see, well, what are the things that I'm like committing to, or whatever. Because I don't know how like, you're defining it. But the way that like I see it being defined is like, like that any person is like permitted to do whatever they want except aggress towards
Like
towards
committing a
others.
physical violence on another person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in itself, right, if you aggress against someone in itself, let's say in a vacuum or something, like that's a reason, that's in itself like a reason to not do the thing, to not like to do the action, right? And that's, I think that's the principle it's being like being kind of like espoused here. So my problem simply is because my problem is simply like there's reasons behind like that statement that I said, right? That entails like that action being wrong, not for its own, not for its own sake of like you're aggressing against someone, but in virtue of like they're being like suffering, right? Or there being kind of like some disutility. So that's that. So that's like
What?
the concept.
What?
So that's the. What are you confused about?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Which word confused you?
Well, the whole thing. I don't understand what you're
Okay.
trying to say. I don't understand what you're trying to say. It seems to me like we agree, right? Like, don't you like when you
No.
do something that goes
Don't
against what
agree.
you say, right? Like you're acting
Yeah, that's like
against what your
performative
words,
thing.
right?
Yeah, this performative thing's kind of weird. But like, I mean, here, I'll do it like this. Your axiom in itself, I don't have a reason like believing that's true. I agree that axiom.
Well, you
under
agree
some
it's true
other
by
thing.
arguing with me.
No, sir. I don't think in virtue of me arguing with you, that means I accept it. I
Well,
accept it
if you
because
didn't accept
in
it, you wouldn't
virtue
argue with
of
me.
some other value.
Well,
I
then why are
agree in
you
virtue of
arguing
some
with
other
me?
value.
If you don't accept that arguing is better than fighting, then why are you
Because
arguing with
I
me?
enjoy it.
Okay, well then
Like
you
do it.
prefer arguing over
Yeah,
committing
that'll
an
be some
aggression.
no. The explanation
Oh
for
wait,
why
loud
I do
noises,
this is
loud
because
noises, loud noises. Let's calm down. Let's calm down.
no. Yeah, like the axiom, right, is true in virtue of another value, right? If there's no value, if the other value is not present, then I don't accept this axiom. That's what I'm expressing to you.
I don't know how to explain this to you. I feel like it's pretty easy to understand.
Yes, you are saying just this axiom, it's for its own sake.
Wait, what's
valuable.
an axiom?
The word
A
that you used.
fundamental basic proposition or basic belief. Yeah.
All I'm saying, I believe in the non-aggression principle, and if you argue as opposed to fighting, you're basically choosing to argue over a fighting, and you're adhering to the non-aggression principle. I don't see how that's so complicated. Well, you don't understand.
Because I don't think I'm committed towards that right in virtue of itself.
Yeah, but
I
you're
think there's
arguing
gonna
with me,
be-
right?
Oh wait,
I
I get it. This is
arguing. Sorry.
yeah, real quick. This is all you have to say. Okay, I'll help you out here. 12 will help you out. Okay. Moxie, I'm not saying the axiom is inherently valuable. We can make a more modest claim. Every time when you use the NAP, it's connected to one of your other axioms. You know, the intrinsic value, pleasure has intrinsic value, right, in of itself, right. So even if it's not, even if the NAP is not intrinsically good, it's still connected to one of your axioms. You're still committed to it.
You're agreeing to it without really admitting to it. Yeah.
Agreeing to it. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're
So what do you think
agreeing
about
to
that,
it
Moxie?
without actually saying you are. You don't have to say you are. It's your actions that tell you what you're doing. It's like if somebody, if
Not
I'm getting
like,
fucked, if I'm in a relationship
no,
with a
no,
guy
no.
and I say
Not
I'm
that
never
the
going to cheat on this guy
action-
and I go get fucked by another
not that
guy,
the
my actions
action
tell me what I really
kinda
want to do.
agrees with it. I'm saying like the explanation. I don't like to the explanation, right? Or I don't know, like the explanation as to like the action that I'm doing. I don't know how that entails like me committing towards this right or this some other this like unnecessary kind of baggage.
Yeah, I see that.
Like an necessary explanation or
I see
principle or
that.
something.
You have an issue understanding. It seems.
Let's be nice.
No, I'm just saying that because I want to move on. I'm not trying to like do this over and over again. You know, I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm good.
Moxie's moxing around, bro.
Yeah, he's fine. But I just, I feel like I've explained my position. I'm not sure how I don't know another way I can explain it. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's all good.
Mhm.
Before I go, how did you think the debate went with Lego?
Yeah, it went fine. I feel like my only problem with Lego is that sometimes he doesn't allow me to speak. He wants to stick on one thing, but in order for me to explain that one thing, I have to bring up a hypothetical. And the thing about me is the best way that I explain things is by using hypotheticals. Yeah, using hypotheticals. So if I have a way of explaining it to you, and like I don't know any other way to explain it other than using the hypothetical, well then I can't really just answer the question justly. You know what I'm saying? And there was a kind of another thing that I think that was a little bit annoying in the conversation was that he was asking me, "Oh, do you think that the United States government owning every single part of its land is legitimate?" And I was like, it depends on how it got its, the land. You know what I'm saying? And because I don't know every single particular situation of how every land gotten, you know what I'm saying? I can't sit here and say in every single state is legitimate or not legitimate because I don't know the particular details. And he kept pushing me on that. And
you could have said, "Oh, that's easy, man." You could have just said, "No, the land is not legitimate because it was colonized."
Yeah, basically what I said is if the land was stolen or colonized, then it's an unjust taking of another person's land. Or if they bought it from another willing participant using their own money, then it's a rightful way of getting the land. But the thing is, I don't know every particular situation on how every single land got to where it's at, so I couldn't answer every single question. So that's what
No,
I kind of
that's
know. You know what I mean?
no, I think I know what you mean. You just got to answer it in general, like basically, or in general, the land.
Yeah.
Is
All I could say is that I can't tell you what land is justifiably taken and what's not because I don't know the particulars. All I can tell you is what would make it constituted as justified or unjustified land, if that makes sense.
I actually wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend you going that route because the moment you say I actually don't know, people are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So just say in general, you have to pretty much say that yeah, in general, I think the land is illegitimate.
Yeah, but I feel like that would be like disingenuous because I don't actually know the particulars in that situation.
I don't think you need to though. I don't think knowing particulars is necessary. You can
Well,
just
then,
do a
because if
general
I'd be like,
assumption.
oh, well, that person bought the land. If the person didn't buy the justified, well, they could just be like, oh, well, actually, they did buy justified in this situation. But then I can't really know if I don't know the situation, right?
I mean, I think isn't that the basic history of America though? Like all the land actually was.
Yeah, but America
Yeah.
is a huge place. You can't possibly know every land and how it all got. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know every particular situation for every land. Like, you know what I mean? It
No,
isn't that
yeah,
simple. That's what I'm
I
trying to
know
say.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but the thing is, like, yeah, I think that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
I had a good time though. Other than that, I had a great time. I had a good time.
yeah, yeah, I get you. Yeah, no.
Hmm.
I came in late because I was, doing something in Alice. But yeah, man, yeah, I think that's all I got for you. I think Moxie, do you have anything else, or what's up?
Not really. I don't think so.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, guys. Well, you know what? I had a great time. Be sure to check out my subscribe to my YouTube channel and all that. All that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
All right, take
If
care.
any of you guys want to debate me, let me know. DM me, and I got you.
All right, yeah, I think Moxie might be down for that, low key.
All right, let me know. I'm always down. Bye bye.
Sounds.
All right, that was fun. I had a good time. I'll see you guys later. For the next debate.